Okay, I guess we're still working on this stuff, people. I forgot I ordered these buckets, and I really wanted to talk to you about them. And I got some extra sprouting seeds, you can see, right? December 16th, right, 2022. I have to finish up with this food prep stuff, right? Now, everybody has their way in their own kitchen, okay? I'm just giving you ideas to think about and mull it over and debate about how you want to go about building in that food security with your staples, mainly. And then having your food prep off to the side. And I'm showing you different ways in terms of how to store it, right? In this situation over here, we're making some deep, rich beef bone broth, right? That I'm going to use for discounted hamburger, but I want them in meatballs, and I don't want them to fall apart. So I guess we'll continue on with this video. Because once these are off the counter, I'm going to go get the mulberries. And I've got this jar here, and these jars here. And that should be enough for what I got right now in a dehydrator. And, hold on a minute. It's gonna take me a while before I can get into any kind of paperwork. Okay. So, okay, these are 2-gallon buckets. This is exactly what I wanted. Right? 1 gallon. I will have some of these underneath there in 1 gallon. I've also decided to put a bit of protein in there in terms of sardines, because Amari likes sardines, salmon, because those are basically the 2 canned food groups that I feed him, either sardines or salmon. We don't eat tuna here, although I've got tons of tuna in the house as backup in the event of. Okay.
The container's gonna be over here, okay?
Yeah, make sure it's standing up so nothing leaks out of it.
It is.
Okay, love you. Yeah, you come right back. Okay. But because I'm working in bulk, when I get into these drinks, right? Because ultimately, that's a goal for me, right? For some things, yeah, okay. But or if I want to get into sourdough making, or just even bread making in general, my own homemade, right? All the time. This will hold a lot of soft white wheat, as well as it will hold a lot of hard red wheat. It will hold a lot of rye. It will hold a lot of mung beans. It will hold a lot of rice, and so on and so on. I'm debating about whether I can put in whole milk powder. Because right now I have them in quart-sized jars downstairs, ×2. In other words, I bought 22 pounds of whole milk, 22 pounds of the skim milk that they have, and I jarred them up, and then I did it again, and I jarred them up. Okay? Whereas it might be better, and I'm actually thinking of buying another 44 pounds of whole milk, skim milk, but of course I don't want to be using 2 cases of jars just to pack them away nicely. But if I'm doing things regularly, because milk is expensive, right? And it's getting more expensive. And I don't mind this powder milk, the whole powder milk. I think it's great. It's just, I don't like dickering around with these quart-sized jars, right? And plus, you know, I'm busy. But once I get more into a routine, I'm thinking, well, if you're going to order, maybe next time, why don't you work on filling up, right? 2 buckets like this would fill up a whole bag. So all I would need would be 4 buckets, about 4 buckets and a bit, a few miscellaneous jars, to compensate for 44 pounds of powder milk, whether whole milk or skim milk. And I can keep 1 bucket specifically for upstairs, because we go through a lot of milk in the house, right? we go through a lot of milk. Like Andre drinks a lot of milk. Hold on a minute. Yeah, we'll be doing these videos for a while. I get lonely in here, people. You know, I really do. Like, you know, when you're a mother of 5 and you have that just high traffic and the noise and, you know, and, you know, one will come and another one come and, you know, and, you know, whatever, and everything calms down and you're doing something and all of a sudden, you know, you get all, right, for years. My biggest distraction is Amari. As a matter of fact, I'll go check on him right now. Hold on. What are you doing? I don't know how you do that. I'm going to have to catch you. Oh my God, people. He is like getting rambunctious and he's stubborn and I'm trying to teach him, no, stop it, be quiet, stop it, shh, be quiet, no, stop it. And when he's in his just whatever mode, he'll stop. And then as soon as it gets quiet, it's almost like he's seeking my attention, right? Because, oh, I don't know. These women at the Child Development Center, where is it? They gave him a little toy. Oh, I can't see it right now. I'll find it and I'll show you later. They gave him this little toy that if you push the button, it starts to move, and I think it has lights. No lights, because they said no lights, maybe because of the seizures, to which made me think, you know, I have to clean Amari's nose, right? And I have to get a flashlight so I can read, because, you know, the air is dry and, you know, dusty, and, you know, and he doesn't blow his nose, and you know how kids can get crusty noses up there, right? So I have to wet a Q-tip, and, you know, I gotta just kind of go gentle and talk him through it and let it moisten, and then I hold like this so he gets a little blow in there, and then I gotta gently try and catch it, and, you know, but sometimes I have to use flashlight because I don't want to go up too far, right? And I'm thinking, well, maybe the flashlight triggered that seizure. Not that I was cleaning his nose that day, but I probably would have cleaned his nose like the day before or whatever, right? You know, so that's something to think about. So I told Andre, we need to find, because I have the small little flashlights versus the big one, we need to find the little ones, right? I try and get Andre to hold the flashlight for me. Sometimes he's not around and I have to clean his nose, but besides that point. Oh, man. Okay. I don't even remember what I was talking about. I don't know. My short-term memory is going on me with this eye medication. Okay, so anyway, we know I want to do all this stuff. We know I want to build in a routine. We know I want to build in talking about the milk, right? So I'm thinking, if you're going to order milk again, you know, now I could just simply go downstairs, which I might, but it depends how fast 7 buckets for me fill up. Because I want the mung beans, I want this, I want, you know, I gave myself 7 to start with, but I was actually thinking in even numbers. So I might go as high as 10. So I have 5 buckets, right? And however and that's my 2 work buckets. So I'm thinking one of them should be whole milk, the other one should be skim milk. And technically, I could go downstairs, grab how many 1-quart jars, fill this up, and then I've got a whole case of jars to do more canning. Right? Long term, I don't know. They would say put it in a Mylar bag and vacuum with a oxygen absorber.
Home, I'm gonna go with him, okay?
Yeah, okay. With an oxygen absorber and a desiccant. I think they use oxygen and desiccant. But I don't use Mylar bags. I just don't, people. I don't even really like them, right? And I don't know how well powder milk would sit in a bucket. But it's possible you could put, because these are food grade, right? And they're solid and they're a nice weight. I can tell already. I like these. I love these buckets. I can tell already. It wouldn't take much for me to fill that up with what I have downstairs. And then that will free up some jars to continue canning. And then when I'm ready to order again, I could either put them into jars depending on how long they're going to be in long-term storage, because I don't know if I would necessarily store powder milk for any length of time in a bucket like this as is, versus I feel more comfortable putting it in a jar, right, and trying to vacuum seal it, although it's very hard to vacuum seal powder milk because it's so fine. I do it, but they don't necessarily stay vacuumed, and it kind of ruins your vacuum sealer because of the fine dust, right? And even then it's a hit and miss. But besides that point, I would feel more comfortable for long term to have them in a jar. Now, I've had mine sitting in a jar long enough that it wouldn't be nothing to bring up how many, just go downstairs and just start filling it up. And then it wouldn't be long before I have a whole bucket of powder milk. And I know me, I would be more apt to use it every time I needed milk, because it's actually quite good because of the convenience of being able to get to it. Because if you're making milk every day, depending on what you're doing, or every 2 days, to which that's pretty much what I was doing, right? You go through a one-size quart jar really fast. And then I just kind of got lazy and just buy jugs of milk from the store. But now that I've got something that I can actually open, I'm good to put that full of powder milk, and I would use it every second, third day. No problem. And I want to make chocolate milk for Amari, because I have the cocoa, because I did the cocoa, which I have in jars. I think I even have some in a package. Some of them I didn't jar up, most of them I did. But I have a fair amount of cocoa powder, which is high in calories to some degree. It holds its own calories. It has its own minerals and vitamins and that kind of thing. But the thing about chocolate is you can't overdo it, right? And Amari likes chocolate milk. He likes cold chocolate milk, not hot chocolate milk. So with this milk powder, you can make a powder mix between the cocoa, the milk, and the sugar, because you got to use a bit of sugar, right? And I could use coconut sugar. I could, for those little extra vitamins. And vanilla, to which I haven't had a time yet to jar up. And then I have a nice jar or some other container where if I want to give Amari chocolate milk 2 or 3 times a week, I could do that, because it's already pre-mixed. So I'm like, you just keep going at it. You're getting there little by little, surely by surely. It's all going to come together and it's going to be great. So I guess these are called gamma lids. I don't have my glasses. So, of course, everything's bouncing back at me. right? See, when he gets quiet, this is where I get nervous, people. What are you doing? Listen, I don't want you falling off the couch. No. I don't know how you do that. I really don't. How did you get those diapers? I remember I was talking about Amari and his behavior and how he's being stubborn and over rambunctious, and he doesn't want to listen when I tell him to stop it or no or shh, be quiet. And he really goes out of his way to be just a little shit disturber, right? And, I'm having to be firm with him, and he's not used to that. And, I have to be very guarded and firm, but yet I have to be loud to get his attention, to get him to even stay quiet. But he hasn't figured out that quiet means stay quiet yet. And I'm wondering if he's seeking attention, and like, why is it the medication that's instigating his behavior? Is it because he's getting older? Because I was holding him yesterday, right? I'm giving him more, I'm holding him. I sat on the couch and I held him, and I was I wasn't really kind of laying down, but I was kind of like this, and I had him here, and and because he wasn't responding to me, and I didn't want to. Stop it! No, you're not supposed to do that. Stop! I didn't want to carry on with that, so I thought, okay, well, maybe, so I'll just hold him, right? And maybe he'll take me more serious, and, and he'll calm down, and just, and he did a little while, kind of, but he was just more in a rebellious mode, and he grabbed me, people. I think he had both hands, but he can't use his right hand very well. But his left hand, oh my God, people. Oh, you don't know. He's getting strong. I'm like, you're 5 years old and you can hold me the way you held me. Like, if I don't get his behavior under control in terms of listening and stopping something almost immediately and not continuing on with it, this is where I think people end up labeling children like Amari with behavioral problems. Because when he's older, he's strong. His left hand is strong. I would almost say he's stronger than me, because I had to struggle to get him to fucking let go, right? And I'm like, holy crumb. You need to hold him more and make him understand that stop means stop, no means no, shh, quiet means quiet, right? And calm down. Because what it is he gets into a play mode, and like, I don't know if it's the medication, or if it's because he's getting older, or if he's just more determined, or I don't know, right? I haven't quite figured it out. All I know is I see a behavioral change coming, right? And, I want to just kind of ease him into some form of, I don't know, right? Oh my God, man, he's so strong. And I think he's realizing it too. You see, that's the thing. He's realizing it, people. Mm-hmm. Right? And Amari's been a really happy-go-lucky, easy baby to get along with, right? And that's the thing. Whatever he's doing, he's laughing through it, and he thinks he's being playful, and he thinks he's being cocky, and but at some point he's gonna have to learn what stop it means, and not poke the bear, right? Because it could become dangerous when he's older, because if he's doing something and he doesn't stop it, he could injure himself or somebody else, right? Because of his strength. that he doesn't necessarily understand. You see, that's the thing, right? To which, for a caregiver, if they're telling, the child who's now a teenager that's 2 times bigger than them, right, to stop it, and they're not responding, and they're not listening, and they're laughing, and they think it's funny, and they just, wah, and you go flying, or whatever, then that's where people start saying the child has a behavioral problem because they don't know how to listen. Obviously, people classify children with behavioral problems usually whenever I deal with these workers, when I come into contact with them for, through like the Ministry of Children and Family Development, when it comes to, well, can we help you with, when that stuff happened with MCFD, with the paramedic, I ended up getting a different kind of social worker calling me up, asking me, is there anything I can do, blah, 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 and they're only limited to so much. And I reminded that individual, I was like, it's not like I haven't got the help already in terms of the at-home program. The only thing that I could possibly think of would be childcare subsidy. Maybe you can put in a referral for childcare subsidy, to which I'll be filling out the paperwork for Tisha for 2 full days a week. And that will give me a reprieve for 2 days a week, where she'll take him and whatever, and as I deal with my eyes, we'll just see how it goes, right? So, he asked me, like, does Amari have behavioral problems? And I'm like, no, he doesn't. Like, no aggression of any kind, right? In terms of a behavioral problem, because that's usually what people think of first. Behavioral problem equates to being overly aggressive and lashing out and that kind of stuff. Murray doesn't do any of that, but as of late, with his growth spurt, I guess you could say, he's learning that he's stronger and he's more determined to do something when he wants to do it, but he doesn't necessarily understand the boundaries because he's laughing and joking through it. And he thinks he's playing, and I want to play with him too. And he doesn't take me serious when I raise my voice and tell him to stop it. And that's why I held him yesterday, thinking maybe if he had, human-to-human contact, because I don't hold Amari very often, right? That will connect him with, I don't know. But he wasn't he wasn't behaving any better. But that was our first time. So I'm going to make an effort to hold him more, and then just see how it, because he doesn't act like that all the time, but when he does, there's a time and place for everything, right? So okay. So back to, I guess, to the buckets. But oh God, man, he's getting strong. Oh, so strong. And fast. I don't know how well, Andre told me how he does it. He laying down, he sits himself up, and he purposely throws himself over, and then he turns himself like this, and now he's laying in this direction. That's what he did. And then he shimmies, and if I'm not careful, he'll fall off the couch. Most of the time he's laughing when I get to him, which I'm talking about over the years, right? Which hasn't been very much. But the odd time he scares himself and he can't get out of whatever he's, right? Because there's blankets and everything in there, right? To try and cushion him just in the event of, right? And because he can't move his limbs to get himself out, he's just kind of stuck there, right? But most of the time he thinks it's funny. Yeah, he's proud of himself, right? I'm giving him more floor time now. For sure, but he's getting bigger and he's getting faster. Okay, so these buckets, I will probably fill up one for sure with whole milk, because I don't mind making whole milk in a jug upstairs. I just don't like having to be dickering with these smaller jars. Although I would prefer, when the 22 pounds comes, to jar it up in a jar for storage. And then, so that's what will happen next time I order whole milk. Instead of putting them in in quart size jars, I'm going to put them in 1 gallon size jars, 4 to a box. And then as my bucket runs out, I just come with a jar and I fill it up, because this is 1 gallon, this is 2 gallons. Okay? So the Gamma lid, I didn't know anything about, although I heard about them and I seen them. This is the first time I'm having a chance to actually use them. I guess they unscrew off. That's what they're supposed to do. Yeah. Look how easy it's going to be to get in and out of this bucket, man. You don't know how happy I am. Like, seriously, you don't know. It's going to make my life so much easier. And I'm excited to fill it up. And that will be another video. We're going to start with the 7 buckets first, and then we're going to see if I need a few more. And if I do, I won't hesitate but to buy them. But before I can use them, I take them to my bathtub, and that's where I wash them. So I'm going to be washing buckets between now and the next couple of days. Because first, before I do that, I have to do this meat, and I have to get it in the oven today. I don't have to can it today, but I have to get them in the oven. And before I fry the meatballs, where are you? Before I fry the meatballs, right, and stress myself out for what it's worth, I think I'm just going to make them, because I have to make the applesauce. Andre brought some apples up, so I'm going to make some applesauce right away and get that cooking and get it going. And I'm going to, as that's doing that, I'm going to go get the mulberries, fill up the jars. My son is going to come up tomorrow and grab jars. I can pack 4 of these in a box, and he has no problem carrying it downstairs for me, so that's great. Got a few other boxes that need to go down, to which I actually kind of wanted. There was like soaps and stuff like that I wanted to show you, just to talk about that briefly in terms of prepping. Whether I get to it or not, it remains to be seen. It was on a different video, but that one wouldn't convert over. It was corrupted. I don't know. There's something wrong with it. Besides that point. And then when I'm ready to make the meatballs, I'll show you what I'm going to do. Don't go looking for a recipe, because you won't find one. Okay, I'm just going on what I know and what I think will work, right? And I'm going to use applesauce and a bit of chickpea flour as a binding agent. And I'm just going to put them into trays after I roll them up, get them into little balls, and I'm going to bake them in the oven. So this way I can use all the hamburger at one time, right? And it'll be done. And then after that, I can also drain them and strain them of the grease, right? Because hamburger is greasy, and we know that grease likes to climb up the jar, right? Okay? And then once that's done, I'm going to turn off this pot. Going to let it cool down. I'm going to take everything out, and then I'm going to degrease that in terms of get another pot, fill it up, let it cool down, skim off the fat that you can skim off for the most part, put it into another pot and put it in your fridge so that the next day all that grease is on top. Skim it off, and then that's the broth that you're going to use for your meatballs, to which by that time will be in the fridge as well. So today basically I'm just getting everything ready for the canner tomorrow, because I want it to be delicious, right? So when you open the jar, it's worth it. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so hold on. Okay, so here we go. So yeah, it worked out to $13.50 that I saved off of each package. Okay, so I don't know. I don't know what this is, people. I can't see, and I'm not bringing out the magnifying glass other than it's ground beef. It's lean ground beef, right? Okay, I don't even know how many pounds it is. So hold on, maybe I do want to see. Hold on. Okay, so it says Canadian beef. Take it with a grain of salt. But anyway, Canadian beef. Extra lean ground beans. So the ground lean beef, right? Extra lean ground beef. So this is extra lean. So that's, for what I'm doing, that's good. Each one came out to $18, either $18.35, $18.10, either or. It tells you here how much you got to save. So I already figured $13.50. So there you go. So now I'm going to put this in a bowl and I'll be back. Okay, so anyway, these are, I bought some of this stuff too in multiples, okay? These ones I got from the dollar store. I got a big bag full anyway, all right? We know I spent $343 for convenience purposes. Now, do you see these lids? I don't like those lids. I don't like them on sardines. I don't like them on anything. So technically, I try to avoid buying them, especially if I'm putting anything in long-term food storage. Unfortunately, when you're buying sardines, pretty much they're all coming out looking like that, right? But I didn't plan to put these anytime soon in long-term, other than have a nice little quick meal, maybe for Amari. Andre says he doesn't necessarily like these things, but I said, well, Andre, you can try it again, and, you know, or I'll eat them, whatever. So you know, for, I don't know what it was, $2, $2.25 a can, you know, you're not going to go wrong. But me, myself, and I wouldn't necessarily put anything, honestly, that's got a tomato base, per se, outside of maybe Heinz beans with the maple syrup. I'm pretty sure they use a tomato base with the maple syrup. I'm not sure. I'd have to actually double check it. In a can, away for long-term food storage, because the tomato and the acid in the tomato, it does, people. Over a period of time, it will definitely eat at the can. Okay? Stuff like this, again, I bought them all from the dollar store, right? Stuff like this says beef stew. I don't know how much tomato in here, if there's any at all. I'd have to look at the ingredients. But again, I bought this basically as a just quick fix. You know, and I said, gee, Andre, look, they got beef stew. Do you want Nana to buy a few? And he said, yeah, okay, well, so I did. I would say if you're looking to do this kind of stuff long term, your best bet would be more along this line than this line. However, this is, in my opinion, the superior option, outside of maybe freezing. The problem with freezing, though, is if the hydro goes out for any length of time, we're talking weeks, months, you know, you're going to be running into problems. You're going to try and salvage as much as you can, cooking outside on a rocket stove with your pressure canner, or you're going to be cooking it and eating it, or you're going to be giving it away so it doesn't spoil, or it's going to spoil, one or the other. Okay, there's only so much you can do. That's why, in one way, I kind of want to clear out some of my freezers in the event of you just don't know, right? Plus, I like to open it up so I can put new things in, right? So I pulled out the bones, 2 packs of bones. I pulled out some beef, which actually is in the fridge, which will go in with these meatballs after the fact, right? More than likely. As a matter of fact, I should maybe grind up the beef, because it's kind of like grainy, you know, like it's not. Alright, I don't know. I was just gonna cut them into little pieces and kind of just Mod Podge them in with the jar, so that you have the meatballs with a few straight up pieces of beef, and it's already, you know, chunks of beef, right? It was just chuck beef or something, right? You know, chuck steak or something. It wasn't anything fancy. And, you know, you're going to be cooking it again, and, well, and it'd probably be fine. I don't have to grind it up, but either or, you know, I could just simply brown this, degrease it a bit, take it, throw it in a jar, maybe a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of salt to a quart, throw in some water, and pressure can it that way, and people do. And I think I've done it, but that's not what I want. I want something that's really tasty out of the jar. The taste is already built right into it, so it can be used for a meal, whatever that meal is at that time. So that's why we're doing it this way. And I don't want just a bunch of hamburgers stuffed in a jar. Like I said, I already have some of that, right? I want meatballs, but I don't want them to fall apart. See, that's the thing. So I Googled online. I know, I cheated. And it said you can use applesauce in replace of an egg, which would be perfectly fine. So I just cooked up some fresh applesauce right here. From my own experience, and just from, you know, analyzing the situation, in combination with the applesauce, I'm also going to use a bit of chickpea flour, okay, as a binding agent to hold everything together. And being that I don't want to fry up all those meatballs, because you can see that bowl is full now, right? It's pretty much full, right? That's what $40 gets you, or so, right? And I'm not complaining. I'm happy with it, okay? And, you know, I don't want to be bringing out whatever and frying and flipping, and so I'm going to keep it easy on myself. Andre, just a little, Andre, I don't want to have to compete over your voice. I'm just going to keep it simple on myself, and it might even work in my favor, honestly, because the more the meat cooks in the oven and releases the grease and sits in the grease, whatever is, like, you know, your meatball, it's just gonna, right, come close, you know, it's right. And then after it's done, you take it out, degrease it a bit more, let the grease drain, and then I'm gonna just put it in the fridge for the night. And then I'm gonna start tomorrow fresh with the canning, because I'm getting tired and I want to go have a bath and have something to eat. And I'm not done yet, because as soon as I'm done this, I have to wash my hands, wipe everything down. As this is cooking, I'm going to go get the mulberries that are still in the dehydrator. I had the dehydrator off, but I turned it back on for a little while, because what happens is, if you turn it off, yes, you got to give it time to cool. But if you let it sit there for a day or whatever it is, any moisture in the air, even if it's in a dehydrator with a lid, those kind of fibers, they do tend to kind of pick up the moisture. And so anyway, I have to go and, you know, so I'm going to be turning off the dehydrator, let it cool down, put everything into the big bowl, fill up my jars. By that time, this meat will be done. You see, I got probably quite a few hours to go here yet, but I got a little energy, so I'm okay with it. Obviously, I'm irritated with my eyes. Everything goes slower. It frustrates me. I try not to get mad with it. And I'm debating in my head whether I should just pick up with Mr. and Mrs. Gill's eye medication, in terms of that ancient India cataract removal, and just kind of once a day, you know, in between what I regularly use, because it's already been, you know, I've already been told that it shouldn't interfere with any type of medication, because anything that I'm putting in my eye is a natural ingredient when it comes to turmeric, honey from India, and there's a secret ingredient that my landlady won't tell me about. I said, well, what's the third? Because she says there's 3. I said, well, what's the third one? I can't remember. She knows. She's just not telling me. So I don't push it, right? And then this way, when I go see the eye specialist, which will be in January, and yes, I did call him. Well, I didn't call him. I called the office, I straight up asked, does this doctor even want to see me after this last little snit that I had, right? I explained to them that I got attacked in the freaking elevator, right? I thought I seen the doctor run by. You're telling me my appointment was at 2:30, and you do realize I was out in the hall cussing, right? I apologize, but, at the end of the day, does this doctor even want to see me? She said, oh, no, we'll make an appointment. So I made another appointment, and it's going to be a little while yet. And I'm just thinking, just cut to the chase, give that medicine that my landlady gave me and my landlord just a fair shake. You've got nothing to lose. I'm not going to cause any more damage than what's already there. And if, she said 1 to 2 months, she wanted me to use it 2 times a day in a bottle with a drop. And I'm like, oh, I don't think I can handle that, but once a day. So I'll just, even if it takes 4 months, or maybe it won't work, or maybe it will damage my fibers, or maybe it will heal my fibers. Whatever, people, like, because every day I get up and I'm wondering, like, when are the lights going to go out, right? So, anyway, so I've been, like, really thinking about it. I was going to do it around noon today, but, I'm busy, and I kind of just, well, because it really stings, eh? Only for a little while, not very long. And, my eyes are already agitated with what I've been doing, right? So, you can see me always going like this, and, I'm always like this, and so what the hell, right? And then, this way when I go see this eye specialist, the only thing that it might do would be if, let's just say, I developed complications around it, right? In terms of, I killed off my little 2 fibers on my 2% vision here, and I go see him and I can't see jack shit. He'll be like, what happened? I'll be like, I don't know. It must have been the medicine that the pharmacy gave me that was coming out all goopy. I still haven't phoned them and asked them about it, but I'm using it right. Cuckoo. Blame it on the medicine that they gave me, and don't tell them that I'm using the other honey and stuff, right? But I'm an honorable person. I would let them know that, hey, well, maybe it's this because that's, and then this way, if it was the pharmacy medication that actually killed off my 2 fibers, I couldn't prove it in court because I was using my landlord's stuff, right? And, being that I didn't go see my eye specialist, he's at complete arm's length to any decision that I make for myself when it comes to my care, right? Because you have to remember, I don't even remember the last time, people, I had a blood test. It's probably been 15 years or more. None of that crap. No, nothing. I've never had a mammogram. None of that shit. So, but, if it wasn't for my eyes, life would be better. Right? Because that's basically what's holding me back now, is my eyes. I mean, obviously, I get tired and, whatever, but I work pretty hard, and it's not easy looking after Amari and, moving him around all the time, and gotta have that heart of steel, and, and just, but I'm okay. I'm okay. So, yeah, I'm really thinking about just giving it a fair shake. And then when I go see him, that's when I'll tell him. And I'll say, well, I'm here now. Look in my eyes and tell me what you think. What did it do to my cataracts? Right? What happened to my 2 little fibers? Are they still there? Because if they're gone and I've only got 8 left on this side, then I won't use it no more. But if my 2 fibers are still there, and maybe I got those still there, then it's okay. Did it affect the cataracts? If there's no cataracts, well, then maybe that first specialist that was trying to book me in well, the second one, I've seen 3 of them so far. The first guy was a real freaking asshole, like completely. And that's how I got into that with that Punjabi woman, right? But, you know, I mean, that didn't work out very good, people, with that, you know, big gobs of glowing green shit, right? But she's the one that said I needed cataract. Well, she said I was getting cataracts and that she wanted to book me in for cataract surgery. I have the paperwork and everything, but I jammed out. And then I guess just couldn't get back there because of what my family doctor did. And when I put the referral in, I did kind of say, like when I went to the eye clinic, I did tell him that I didn't want to see her because, you know, I just didn't, right? So maybe that's why they didn't put the referral in, because I think these eye clinics hook up with specific types of doctors that take poor people on social assistance, and that's all they give referrals to. Or maybe they did give the referral, but maybe she didn't want to see me, or maybe they didn't give the referral. All I know is it never went through, and I went and seen them in April, and I have yet to hear anything yet. And through that process, this shit happened. And she wanted to do cataract surgery in 2020, or maybe 2019. Well, this eye specialist doesn't mention anything about cataracts. And I spend a lot of time over the stove, you know that. Not to mention getting all kinds of shitty shit in my eyes when I'm working in this yard. I'm not complaining, I'm just saying. So, what we're going to do is we're going to put just a little bit of garlic in there. That is the equivalent of maybe 9 to 10 medium size cloves of garlic. Okay? I'm going to put a whole bunch of pepper in there. I'm going to have to do the pepper twice, or I can mix it up with a spoon before I get my hands all ooh, right? Because I want the flavor built right into the meat. My favorite seasoning salt. See, this is where I can't see, but besides that point. And then we've got some homemade applesauce without sugar. I think it's like 3 tablespoons for every egg that you would put in. So 1, 2, 3. That's 1 egg. 1, 2, 3. That's 2 eggs. 1, 2, 3. That's 3 eggs. And because it's such a big bowl, I would probably put another one as if it was just regular, you know, go about your dinner business, right? So I'm going to put one more in because it's applesauce. It's going to be fine, right? It's, you know, you don't have to pressure can applesauce, but sure, get it all over my feet. Ooh. Right. You don't pressure can applesauce, but in this situation you'd have to because it's with meat. Okay? But I'm not satisfied with that. I still feel I need a little more binding agent. Okay? That's just my opinion. And you can chickpeas whole. Okay? So there should be no reason why you couldn't can chickpea flour in moderation, mixed in with the meat itself. I wouldn't make the meatball and then flour the meatball with the garbanzo flour, although you probably could. Because what would happen in a situation like that is, after you cook it, fry it, everything, throw it into your jar, throw in your liquid, the liquid itself is going to wash away the outside. And that's where you're going to get that fine pulp, which, quote unquote, is the problem. Because the heat can't travel through it because it thickens up too much. Whereas, in this situation, I'm mixing it right into the meat, but I'm not mixing it in large quantities. I'm mixing it in just enough to give it that binding to hold it together, right? And being that I'm making meatballs, you know how it will sit in the jar. Then I'm going to fill it up with my broth. So when it's in the pressure canner, the heat travels through the liquid, okay? And it, of course, travels through the food. And because you're not using a large quantity of this, it shouldn't be a problem. Okay? In part because, one, you're using a bean, quote unquote, in combination with an applesauce. Okay? So I've got, I don't know, about 1/3 of a cup here. Cats are fighting. So I'm just going to sprinkle a bit on there. I guess I can start using my one hand. And I'm going to probably have to use more apple because this isn't going to get all the way down to the bottom. I can tell you that right now. Because this is a lot of beef. So I'm going to probably do another 4 more tablespoons of applesauce, because the worst that's going to happen is the moisture from the applesauce itself is going to be cooked out in terms of the water, right? It's going to leach out when it's cooking in the oven. And as it's leaching out, that's what binds the meat together. Alright? Okay? Because you don't want them falling apart after you've pressure canned them and you go to heat them up. Right? So, I'm not going to add in any more garlic than what I've already got, because the broth is going to be very rich. Because I'm going to use it's not a bouillon, it's something else that I've got that I really like the taste of. It's something I bought from T&T, an Asian store. Right. And I'm going to find it. And if I can't find it, then yeah, I'll just use beef bouillon. A couple of beef bouillon just to give it that little extra flavor. So now that I've done that, just going to mix it up. After I add in some more spice, one more time. I'm not adding salt because I've got the seasoning salt, and the broth itself will have some sort of a salt agent, whether it's a bouillon cube or this other stuff I got. Plus I have a little bit of salt in the yeah, and I want more apple. So, because this is a lot. 1, 2, 3. So that's 1 more egg. So that's what, 5 eggs approximately? Or so. Right, and I'm going to add 1 more. we're going to be fair about it, right? In terms of, see what we get. Okay. And then we're going to add the rest of this. That's all I'm putting in. Okay? Nothing more, nothing less. That's like that few noodles. Those few noodles. Do you see? That's like those few noodles in your chicken soup. Okay? You can have a few noodles in there. Right? So I just put, you know, Gabarzo noodles in there. Right? So now, I'm going to finish mixing this up. I need 2 hands. And then add a little more pepper and just a little more seasoning. And then I'm going to make the meatballs. I'm doing 2 trays because I can get them in my oven. I'm going to make them about 1 inch in circumference so that when they go in the jar after they're cooked, right, they, you know, right? I suppose you could go a little bigger, but I think in this situation about 1 inch or so should be fine. And then after that, when they're in the oven, I might make myself a coffee and get on with the mulberries so I can get on with the next batch, which I'll probably just keep it simple on myself and just start dehydrating a whole bunch of them whole and obviously preserve them that way once they're completely dry, in case you want to sprinkle them into, you know, your salad or your oatmeal and you want that larger crunchy burst of sweetness, right? And turn off the pot here. That's it for seasoning salt now. Right? Turn off the pot. Drain. You know, strain it. Right? Get that other beef ready. Well, I don't have to do that. I just need to get these in the fridge and I'll deal with that other beef tomorrow. And then strain the broth and, you know, get it where it can cool and have all the grease come to the surface so that I can skim it before I use it. Right? And then tomorrow will be a new video. And we'll just can it and we'll see what we get. Right? And, I'm happy I got my buckets. Oops, now I'm dropping meat. And you see, this is the problem. I can't see it. I can kind of see down there, but I can't see it. I don't know where it went, but I heard it. You heard it. I think I see it. I just don't want to step on it. I think I see it. So, I'm showing you this in case you might want to do it for yourself. Yes, these are convenient. If you're going to buy for food prep, again, be careful with anything with tomato in it. It can only handle being in long-term storage for so long because of the acid eating at the can. With something like this, with a very minimal amount of tomato, if any tomato at all, will sit for much longer if you're buying in bulk. And I'm talking in cases. Okay? To which, that's what I'm going to be doing with a few things. Right, I'm going to walk out with 4 cases of this, 4 cases of that, just as those few top-off things. Not every single thing, because I don't want it and I don't need it, but there's certain things that I do want. And so that's how I'm going to control myself. Right? Okay, so now I'm going to make meatballs. So hold on. Look at that. What are you doing? You act like you live here. Huh? This cat is very smart. Like, extremely smart. And it definitely is a thinker. Hey, you're definitely a thinker. I don't know. Okay, she won't go anywhere, right? Throw her outside. She comes back in. You know, she was bossing everybody around there for a while in terms of all the other cats, but whatever. They're getting along somewhat, but she's more of an alpha, right? Anyway, okay, so you can see what I've done. Now, I'm not greasing. I'm just going to use a bit of water, okay? Just enough so it doesn't stick, per se. Because it's going to evaporate as it cooks anyway, right? We just want to get it started, and plus the hamburger itself is going to release a little bit of moisture, as well as I would suspect the applesauce. Okay? So I just got it at 350, and I'm just going to bake them now for a while. And then we'll see what we get after that. Right? That's a fair amount. That's going to be quite a few jars. Now you have to remember, we're going to get into that shrinkflation. As these cook, they're going to get smaller, okay? Which is what we kind of want, right? And I've got 4 burgers left that I'm going to fry up, and we're going to just see what happens to them in a frying pan with the binding agent that I have right now, right? So hold on. Okay, so this is very, very lean. I tried to start frying it in with the water, but it needed a bit of oil. So with that said, I put a little bit of oil in each one. Just move the tray around, right? Okay? Just because. It's going to all be drained off anyway. The water will evaporate. You can see where the water is. Eventually, it's going to evaporate, right? So I'm just going like this, just to move that oil around a bit, okay? Because this is very, very lean. So this is good, though. Okay, you can see what's going on in there. Right? It's sizzling. It's degreasing itself. Right? I'm not going to move things around right now because these ones I'm frying, and they're actually quite good. They're holding their shape. You can see, right? The only thing that it's missing is a little more seasoning salt, but that's okay. Good. Okay. So, that's mulberries. Ground it up. And put them in a jar. December 18th of 2022. I have a bit more energy here. So, I'm going to be canning the meatballs. The Adoptive Family Christmas Bureau. The Christmas Bureau Adoptive Family sponsor, quote unquote, aka Kennedy Pub in Delta, British Columbia, Canada. So it's a pub who sponsored the kids and myself, right, this year. Anyway, they came by yesterday and they dropped off 5 boxes of food. So I was going to show you, but, you know, I got to get on with this canning, right? And, you know, just keep with what I've been doing, right? And, like, I'm really, when I got it and I kind of, you know, poked through it and just, you know, whatever. And what it did is it kind of made me feel like the good old days when I had all my 5 kids at home, and you know, Uncle John and I, we'd go off to the grocery store, and, you know, I'd spend, rack up my credit cards, people. I'd rack up my credit cards. Yeah, $800 a pop. You know, 5 kids eat a lot of food, right? Uncle John was greasing. Everybody was greasing. And Uncle John and I, we'd push the buggy. He'd have one buggy. I'd have one buggy, and whoever was the smallest was with me, and we'd be laughing and jostling, and and just it was like it's completely different shopping experience doing it the way I got it, in terms of it's just like a standard shop. You go to the grocery store, you buy a box of this, a box of that, a can of this, a can of that, a jar of this and a jar of that. It's completely different from what I've been doing in terms of bulk. Right? So it felt good. This is what I'm trying to say. It just kind of brought me back to the good old days when my kids were young, and I used to do shops like that, right? And it was a fair amount. Like, we'll go through it after, or whatever, just fast, nothing fancy. And so, yeah, so I want to send them a little gift, maybe through Amazon, some chocolates or something, right? There was a couple of presents there, right? And somebody wrote John. It had a little sticker, right? And it says from, and then John, and the writing wasn't that great, right? Which made me think of Uncle John, right? So somebody at the pub named John. He could be an Uncle John, who knows? Anyway, he just made me miss Uncle John. Right? I guess Uncle John is with us in spirit, I suppose, right? So, yesterday, after I got the delivery of the groceries, right, and whatnot, I don't know, at some point, because my hours, right, I decided to lay down and take a nap, okay, for a little bit. Well, actually, no, that's not true. I decided to lay down. I had the computer on. I was listening to something, and I just kind of crashed, right? Because I got the boxes, and I had to, there's no room, people. So, it wouldn't have been a good day for the paramedics to come by. Let's just put it that way. So I had to kind of downsize the boxes, and I got it down to 2 boxes, and I moved things around. I got a turkey, a frozen turkey, which is right over there. That after I'm all said and done, freaking canning this hamburger, they gave me also another hamburger and a ham and a little package of pork, right? Chops or something. The pork chops I'm going to cook up later. I'm so glad I have energy today. Oh, man. Because I've got a long haul with this, okay? With the hamburger, because I have to do the hamburger today. I'm going to start washing jars after I get this in jars. And then I have to brown the fresh hamburger. I'm going to can that one as is, in terms of I'm just going to brown it, degrease it, get it ready for the jars. It's not very much. I might get 2 jars out of it, right? That will be fine. Because I don't need it right now, right? And I'm trying to empty out my freezer versus putting things in my freezer. So, it's just 2 extra meals somewhere down the line for the family, right? The turkey, I am going to stew it because I want that rich broth, right? So I'm going to see if I can stew it. It's a small turkey, so at some point I should be able to get it into my pot. And I'm just going to stew it as is. How much broth I get out of it, I don't know yet. I might have to cut it in half and put the other half in another pot and have 2 pots stewing, so I have that little extra turkey broth, because I want to can just broth, right? Because, I'm still got Amari's meals on mind, like his super drinks, right? So we'll see. So definitely that's going in the pot, and that's going to stew and get nice and rich, and then I'm going to can that, right? So I'll probably, hopefully, have energy to can the turkey tomorrow, right, after it cooks throughout the night. And then more than likely I'll probably end up doing the ham too. I'll can the ham as well, right? And then what happens when you do it that way is you just spread out the meals, right? You're not gorging yourself on this stuff. in terms of you cook a turkey, you go, you fill up your plate, and next person comes, and, and then the whole thing is gone in one night. In this situation, I really do like rice with a vegetable of some kind. They gave me 3 bags of frozen vegetables, so I just put them in the freezer up here. I found some I make up taking out and putting in, right? And just whatever, right? So I'm going to keep those ones frozen. I'm not dehydrating those because I've already done that. And so that's nice, right? But yeah, no, like a nice rice with the vegetable, and then you open up your jars, right? You bring it to a boil, then you turn it down, you keep it on a low boil for 10 minutes, and then you make beautiful gravy, and oh, it's so good. It's just, especially if everything is rich, right? That's why I'm going to just cook this turkey as is in the pot whole, right? So I get a nice, deep, rich broth with it. And so that when you do open up the jar, you get a really good base for a gravy, right? But after that, like I said, maybe I'll just stop. I'll talk a little bit off and on while I'm doing whatever and upload this video. Otherwise, they get too long. And then maybe when I start the hamburger, the actual canning part of it, right? I'll start fresh. Because, we've got the meatballs. Now we've got some extra hamburger raw that I'm going to brown. We've got some stock that I'm going to degrease. So, by the time I do all that and do whatever, and it'll be another hour on the video, right? And then the video is going to 2 hours long. So anyway, after I sorted out the boxes and everything and brought some boxes down and whatever, and I was listening to something on the computer, and I just kind of crashed, right? Because, I'm tired, right? And I thought, oh, you just lay down for a little while and you listen. I should know better. Yeah, I was listening, and then I kind of fell asleep for a little bit. So from the time I laid down and I fell asleep to 3:30 and I woke up, no, okay, whatever. I was expecting a delivery yesterday from Amazon, okay? Looking around, no package, no package, whatever. By 10 o'clock at night, I go on Amazon to see if maybe the delivery was extended, right? And it said it got delivered to my door. I'm like, what? No, I didn't get no box. Long story short, somebody stole a fairly large box from my front door in that little window of time. Now, I ended up contacting Amazon. They did refund me for that. They listed as lost, but, clearly it was theft. Whether it was the potato thief or somebody that's perpetually stealing from my yard, right? 2 bikes from a little boy, You can even say the grapes, the plums, right? Other miscellaneous things. Who knows? I don't know, people. I ask myself, who moved into the neighborhood in the last 6 months? Because I've never had this problem before. Every now and then a stray homeless person would come in, poke around, but not to what's been happening. Let's put it this way. Obviously, Sierra would steal, right? But Sierra's not here anymore, so we can't blame Sierra. This is somebody that's purposely watching my house, going out of their way to walk around so they can find an opportunity if they see something like a bike. Doesn't matter if it's a child's bike. They're going to come in and they're going to steal it right off my freaking front steps, right from inside my garage or whatever. In this case, they came up on my doorstep in a 2-hour window because the delivery came in at 1:21. And I don't know. I said, well, maybe it's your carrier, right? Maybe, maybe he put the box down and took a picture, said he delivered it, and then picked it up and took off with it, right? Or definitely it was a thief. Definitely it was a thief, people. I'm kind of suspicious as to who it could be if it was a neighbor, because I know my neighbors, okay? Well, I don't know my neighbors, but I know who's new in the neighborhood, basically, for the most part. Now, there could be a shack around here real close by. That wouldn't be unusual. So, of course, or what, doesn't matter. It's the point that it's probably the same person who is coming into my yard stealing children's bikes. Okay? I don't think I was resting on the couch at 1:30 because I was doing that food in those boxes. Right? And I was opening and closing my door all day, except for that short period of time when I laid down and I was resting. That's all it took. Right? Because they're watching. Right? They're going out of their way to walk up my street to see what they can find in my yard. And if it's a box on my porch, because you have to remember, I get these food boxes coming in. And my neighbors across the street, they can see this. Okay? So, it could be a neighbor. If it was somebody walking, looked, it's because they've been going out of their way to do that shit. Like I said, with the bike. Then to something else. Then they're not satisfied with that. They gotta go look for another fucking bike. Right? Like, this is pathetic. I told Amazon customer service, I want my products. I don't want a refund. I want my 2 1-gallon jars. I want my Sunlight bar laundry soap. And I want my Borax. They said, well, I had to reorder because blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, well, if your guys aren't gonna ding dong, to let people know, first of all, right, that there's been a delivery. Like, how many times do I have to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth? I probably went back and forth 20 times yesterday waiting for this delivery. And in that short period of time, somebody's been scoping out my freaking house. They seen the box. They seen that the door didn't open up fast enough. And they ran across the fucking street. Or they were just walking by because they were doing the run. Because if they're stealing from my house, people, they're also stealing from other people's houses. So we definitely have a thief in the nearby vicinity, right? A lowlifer, basically, literally, a lowlifer. Like, who goes out of their way to steal children's bikes? And then come back and start stealing boxes right before Christmas. Like, you gotta be a freaking lowlife to do that. So anyway, now I'm all like, well, gee, I don't know how much I can order anymore if that's what's going to happen, right? Yeah, okay, the company reimbursed us and me, or they refunded me the money, but, the company is taking loss. I don't care what company it is. That's not fair to the company, and, yeah, it's easy to accuse the carrier, but in light of bikes going missing and that kind of thing, it kind of makes you wonder if, it's your fucking neighbors, looking out their windows, watching your house, right? Right? Or your neighbor over there that lives in a freaking shack, doing the circle, scoping out the houses so that they can come back and steal something if they're not stealing it on the fly. In terms of, they seen the box on my doorstep, they ran up. Like, you gotta be, well, it's the same person that came into my house and stole that silver thing. And there was also something else that was taken from the inside of my house. Like, this person needs to go to freaking jail. Literally. How that will happen, I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, I just wanted to say that, right? See, it's going to be kind of hard to run off with 44 pounds of rye wheat. Especially if you're a, a goof? What do they call, well, they call them goofs, right? I don't know, just some scuzzy wannabe nobody that has no life. Probably couldn't handle carrying 44 pounds of wheat. Or whatever. But, you know, a couple of jars, some bars of soap and borax. Like, was it worth the high? Was it worth the high? I guess it was, eh? Like, Surrey is so freaking shady, man. So freaking shady. So anyway, I'm trying not to get upset about it. I'm shy two jars right now. If I would have gotten my jars yesterday, life would have been better today. But I have to just make do with what I have. And, like, this is pathetic. Like, seriously, I'm not even really thinking to plant anything this year. No. No. What for? To have the potato thief come back with their silver knife digging in my dirt? Yeah, okay. Oh. I'm pretty sure it's related. Like I said, are they doing the circle? Do they go from house to house stealing boxes randomly for the houses that they target? Or is it my neighbor very close by that's looking out the window, paying attention to what's coming and going? I'm really wondering. It's not that neighbor. It's not those neighbors. I highly doubt it's the Syrians. I know it's not those people over there, the Fijians or whatever they are, right? I know those ones over there, those ones in the big monster house, the East Indians or the Punjabis, they're not stealing, okay? Because they've been here for years and years and years and years. I've never had that issue. So I'm like really suspicious. Yeah, it's somebody on the block. Yeah. I can't see Julian's sister walking around doing the patrol just looking for boxes, although I could see her geeking somebody up in the neighborhood and, you know, manipulating them to do it. That I could see, right? But outside of that, I don't know. Hold on. Okay, so it takes more time to get organized. Now, mind you, I've been doing other things than to actually, well, 90 minutes in the pressure canner because I'm going to be doing quart-sized jars. So here's these meatballs. Okay, you can see it's big bowl, right? This is what the Kennedy pub gave me. I don't know how much that says there. I can't see it. I don't... am I reading that correctly? Hold on a minute, people. Lordy, lordy. Look at that. That's like 20 bucks. What is it? Just lean ground beef. I think this was extra lean, okay? Do you see? So what's going to happen here is, and this is the broth that I made. So now I'm going to skim off the fat because it's been in the fridge, okay? Because this will probably still release a little bit of fat after it goes through the pressure canner because, you know, I cooked it, but, you know, I didn't, you know, crisp it up, right? Okay? So then you know how to do this, right? I mean, it's pretty straightforward, right? And you can see that broth is nice and gelatin, so I'm going to take that off. Look at that. Well, not really, but even still, it's still good. Okay? Yeah. And then I've got a little flavoring in here that I like. So after I get this going, I'm going to flavor it up a bit. Then I'm going to put those in there. But I'm going to fry this. Well, I'm not going to fry it. I'm going to degrease it. I'm going to brown it. Let the grease come out. Strain it. And then I'm hoping to get 7 jars. 7 quart-sized jars. Okay, that's what I'm hoping for. And then we've got the turkey down there. Can you see? There. And then I'll deal with the turkey after the fact. Okay, hold on. Okay, for those that do eat animal products, right, in terms of meat and fats and that kind of thing. Now, for $20, like, honest to God, now you know why I look for those deals, because the other ones were 20 bucks at what, $4.50 off per pack. I saved myself, right? Okay, we know. Right? And like for $40, basically all I got for $40 was that. Okay? Now, the whatever came out in the, because I put them in the oven, right? Whatever juiced out after the fact, I'm sorry. I don't, you know, as much as I'd like to rescue everything, I can't. That stuff actually went into a bag and went into the garbage. Now, however, with the sign of the times, I don't know, people. Not everybody is middle class with the rich husband, right? Not everybody's like that, okay? Most people aren't, right? So, you know, we need to find ways to extend our meals over a period of time. Okay? And this is just, I'm just showing you one way how to do it without relying, quote unquote, on your freezer. Right? So what I'm doing here is I'm warming up the broth, and when it gets warm, you know, to the point where it's starting to get ready to boil, I'm going to add in this beef flavoring that I really, really like. Right? And I'm cooking this up a little bit to degrease it, brown it, right, just a bit. This one here is going into the jar as is with the broth. I'm pretty sure I'll have enough broth for everything that I need to do, right? And I might even get lucky, and I might even be able to can 1 or 2 jars of just straight up beef broth by itself, which would be wonderful. But if not, that's okay. We got the turkey coming, and then after the turkey, we're going to do the ham. And we're going to see how many meals we get out of all of this. I don't know how much the turkey is. There is a price tag on it. I'll tell you later. So far, we're at the $60 mark. $40 what I paid for what I bought at a discount. $20 more for this little bit of beef that will maybe give me 2 jars of ground beef as is, right? I'm pretty sure I can get 2 jars here. Oh yes, and I got that. I just remembered. It's a good thing too. I got that round steak right in the fridge. So I'm going to go get that, and I'm going to chop it up into squares, and I'm going to be mixing it in with my meatballs. That's what I'm going to do. Right? And that was something that was in my freezer that I vacuum sealed a long time ago. So that's fine. And then we'll get 7 jars for sure. For sure we're going to get 7 jars. We might even bypass 7 jars. Right? Now, this grease that was on top of the broth, you know, when I'm rendering this, Andre, I am not going to overtalk you. When I'm rendering that beef fat that the butcher gives me, right? It's just a Mod Podge of whatever. That's why it's called tallow. Right? Okay, there's suet, which is the better part of the animal with the best animal fat for lard, quote unquote. And then everything else becomes tallow. Okay. You know, animal fat is animal fat. So what I'm trying to say is that stuff that I skimmed off top of my broth, at some point, it's in the fridge right now, because that one I'm going to salvage. Okay? So what I'm saying is I'm going to melt it down on a low heat. I'll pour it in a jar, and I'll see if I can find a place to freeze it, and I will use it. Or I'll pour it into a jar. But you see, I have enough already in my fridge because I've been making tallow and I've been making lard. So I already have a surplus upstairs, right? But what I'm saying is, with the way the economy is going, and with the supply chain, and with the food disruptions, and with droughts, and this and that, and you know, it might be wise to save it, because you might not be able to come into these vegetable oils for cooking, frying, and that kind of stuff, right? I mean, obviously I wouldn't use that one for pie crust, but definitely you could use it for frying, because once you melt it down, don't bring it to a boil, because beef, especially beef, it cannot tolerate high heat for any length of time, right? Just enough to melt it, put it into your jar. I mean, if you want to give it a couple of minutes to evaporate any liquid, so be it. But outside of that, everything that's in terms of a liquid will fall to the bottom of the jar, and all your fat's going to be up on top. Right? And use it. Whether you use it right away or whether you freeze it. Because there might come a time when you go off to go buy a vegetable oil, regardless of what that vegetable oil is, you're either not going to, one, be able to afford it, or two, you might not be able to find it. Okay? So don't be ashamed to do that. Because in the good old days, many of us oftentimes would just degrease and chuck out the grease, because we never had to worry about going off and worrying about where we were going to get, you know, oils to fry our food in, or whatever it may be, right? Okay, so this is basically all I'm going to do here. So now I'm going to strain it, and then this animal fat, which is basically fat, as if it was a Mod Podge of, I mean, yeah, there's going to be a little bit of liquid in there. But same principle. You can, right? Save it. Use it. Okay? You know? Don't underestimate. Because there's a lot here. You know? Because for $20, honest to God, you're not getting much for your money. I know there are people out there that, like I said, that middle class that want to retain their wealth and have their offshore accounts and, you know, and are wheeling and dealing in the underbelly of the black market, because there are the recipients to illegal organ harvesting, and then there are the victims to it, in terms of the ones that have it ripped out of their bodies, right? I'm sorry, people. This is British Columbia, Canada, okay? I've been saying it for a long time. It's the new Congo. All right? So, while you're here on this planet, by the grace of you-know-who up there, you know, don't be ashamed to utilize what you have, especially if it's given to you. And in this situation, this was donated through the Kennedy Pub. I almost want to approach them and ask them if they'll do a fundraiser based on the one that I wrote out in, I guess it was 2008 or something like that. Right? Where they can put an application into the city of Delta to extend their hours of operations until 3 and bring in a 50-50, to which I already wrote. So all they'd have to do is just go through it and change the numbers. Ultimately, it would still amount out to be almost the same in terms of $70,000 to $90,000 raised over a course of a year just on weekends, people. And then they can choose their charity of choice and give that money to them. And they can do it in partnership with the foundation. But I'm so disgusted. I'm like, oh, don't kid yourself, Judy. Why are you kidding yourself? Why would they even want to waste their time with you? Right? I don't know. We'll see. I'd have to find everything as if I can see it, right? So right now what I'm doing is I'm just straining it. Now, I started writing everything down when I give Amari his medicine, at what time, when I do my eyes, at what time. I have been using Mr. and Mrs. Gill medicine with that secret ingredient. I've done it, I think, 3 times already. It doesn't really bother me. I don't even tear up that much because my eyes are so freaking irritated. It's almost like they're numb. I don't feel much of anything. Right? I get a little bit of tears, but that's about all I get. This one I don't feel as much though, right? But when I'm walking around during the day, my eyes are irritated, and this one gets goopy and just feeling like, I don't know, it's just always like just doing whatever, right? But, I mean, it's dark now outside, so, the light spectrum has changed. And I've been up since, oh my, I don't know what time I got up. 4:35, something like that. So I've been up for well over, I've been over 12 hours. I've been up for 12 hours, basically, right? I don't know if it was my imagination station, but I kind of felt like my eyes were slightly better today. Slightly. In terms of just, I can see things more clear. But with the daylight gone now, and I've been up for so many hours, and now I'm in the kitchen over the stove right? I mean, I can see it's gotten kind of hazy, eh? But I've been kind of going like this to see, because I've, are my eyes maybe getting a little better here for whatever reason, right? And I'm going like this, and I don't know. They might be, just a little bit, but not right now. They're crashing now because of the light, and it's dark, and I'm over the stove. But that's okay. I mean, it's going to be what it's going to be, right? I just wanted to say that. So I'm going to continue using Mr. and Mrs. Gill's medicine 2 times a day. I'm not putting in very much because I'm not trying to agitate my eyes any more than they're already being agitated with those 2 drops, right? And they already spoke, like my landlord, right? He has eye issues too, right? And he's already spoken to his eye specialist about these drops. And his eye specialist gave him the green light, right, to go ahead and do it because, it's all organic material, right? It's turmeric, honey, and that secret ingredient that my landlady forgets, so she doesn't have to tell me what it is, right? Anyway, so, it's not going to do me any more harm, right? She wanted me to get it in a little bottle for drops, right? And in those days it was like really stinging, and I'm like, oh, God forbid. It's enough I'm doing what I'm doing. And I've decided that I'd rather not do that way. And she wanted me to do it 2 times a day. I told her at the time, back then, once a day with what I'm doing. And but now, because she suggested 2 times, I am doing it once during the daylight and once late at night. Like I'll probably do it again around midnight or whatever. I'm writing everything down now, right? So I will see what time it was. So within a 12-hour period or so, I'll do it again. And I don't saturate it too much, just enough for it to do its job. And it doesn't really, in some kind of a way, it's almost even soothing, right? Right, and with my eyes being so overstimulated with these other drops, it doesn't even sting that much for me anymore. So it still stings, but. And then I'm gonna when I go see the eye specialist, which will be in about another 3 weeks from now. I guess he's not turning me away. I'm gonna tell him this is what I've been doing. Right, check my eyes. Let me know. Tell me what you think. Right, in terms of cataracts. And within 3 weeks, if I feel like my eyes are getting slightly more clear, to which today I was suspicious about it, in combination with his medication and maybe with what I've been doing with Mrs. Gill's medication for the last 3 times, right? I just feel like I got maybe, instead of 2 fiber optic nerves, maybe I got 5 now. I'm serious, right? Because I think I can see a little better, not that well, it's still kind of dark. This one's much clearer for sure, but and then I'll tell him that I'll probably want to continue it for another 2 or 3, 4 more months at the rate that I'm going. Right, in terms of not overdoing it too much, right? But just enough for it to do its job in terms of that healing aspect of it. Right? And then he can monitor it. And then if he starts balking at it, I'll remind him that, there is a children's Tylenol shortage right across the province and pretty much going across the continent. There's an antibiotic, amoxicillin shortage pretty much right across the continent. And these are the things that we know about. So, in light of where we're going in society, this medicine might be the only medicine that will be around in the future when it comes to cataracts. And, he's going to want his connections. I mean, obviously, if he says, well, I don't know, seems like your eyes got worse, I mean, obviously he'll blame it on the medicine that I'm using from my landlords, but I'll be like, no, I don't think so. Because I've seen turmeric in action. I know how it can really heal the body very, very quickly. Because when Mr. Lace got attacked by those roosters, it was the turmeric on his skin with the feathers gone, right? That really helped him to heal really, really fast. Yeah. So I'm not too worried about it. But I'm finding that in the evening, without the sunlight, now mind you, I've been up for 12 hours and I've been computer working. I was in the bathtub washing those buckets. I was doing the mulberries, right? Just doing dishes, washing jars, just, I've been really quite busy. I've actually had a fair amount of energy today, so I feel good about that. So that will be enough for at least 2 jars, maybe 3. I might even be able to get 3 out of it. It's hard to say. Now this, back in the good old days, I wouldn't necessarily keep it, right? But in the sign of the times, people might want to consider keeping it. All you have to do, if you're not going to use it right away, within the next little while, keep it in the fridge. Obviously, it doesn't like to sit out on the counter, right? Because it's beef. And just freeze it if you're not going to use it after the fact. Right? Now, what I could do technically, what I could do is I could jar this shit up. I could get that other one before I get too deep in the game here. I don't have time. I got to stay focused. But I could get that other lard, put it in a pot right here. I just have to clean it. Heat it up. Maybe just simmer it on low to evaporate some of the moisture. Okay? And then after you do that for a bit, then you can put them in jars and you freeze them. If you're not going to use them right away. Otherwise, put them in your fridge and use it as a frying agent for the most part versus oils. So if you know, like, this is what I mean. You're going to spend $20 and throw out $5. Why? Why? What's the purpose? Where's the value in that? Especially in this day and age. Okay? So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that first. I am going to wash this pot. And then I'm going to you see. Hold on. Okay, so I'm going to do it now. So this is from the soup. Okay? This is from the hamburger. We'll just, technically you're supposed to kind of use a cheesecloth. You can see there's still, right, a little bit left. So as long as we get the majority of it. Okay. Alright. So now we're just going to heat this up on low for the most part. And then we're going to just kind of like, just let it sit like that for a little bit, not too long. Just to cook off some of the water. You know, that kind of stuff. Okay? And I'm going to go look for some jars. It's really simple. And even if you don't do that right now, because you've got, you know, you're feeling okay, you know, it's wait, you know, right? But over the next course of the year, if you notice that it's going to cost you $40 for the same amount of meat, and you want to throw away $10 of it because you don't want to deal with the fat, but you can't buy oil unless you spend $25 for a liter of oil, I'm showing you an alternative here. Okay? I've done enough tallow with miscellaneous pieces of fat from a cow to know that fat is basically fat. Okay, except for maybe if you're getting into that quote-unquote suet, which is up by the kidney area, a certain belly fat that's like really fine. But other than that, right, to fry potatoes in, to fry whatever you're frying, rice, it will be fine. The only thing is you have to freeze it. You can't keep it in your fridge for over a year. It's not shelf stable like that. It will sit in the fridge for like quite a long time, a month or so or two or whatever, right? You'll know if it goes bad, as long as it's nice and cold, right? But other than that, so now it's starting to boil. So I don't want to boil it. I just want to, well, I kind of want to have it on a little teeny weeny boil, not a big boil, because I just want to cook off some of this, the broth. When I was skimming it, some of the broth, I just want to cook off just a little bit of that, just the water, to have it evaporate, right? So I just turn it down a little bit, right? Now I'm going to go look for some jars, and I'm going to jar it up real fast, put a lid on it, cool it, put it in the fridge. It's not going to look the same as if you were dealing with fat cutting and rendering in the oven, because it was created differently, but it will still do the same job. And this one will have probably a bit more flavor outside of what you would get from fat ends. Okay, so hold on. I gotta work fast. Okay, so I'm just showing you this so that you can just know. Again, it's going into your short-term memory, via through your hippocampus. You're gonna go to sleep. Your brain's gonna take that from your short-term memory, and it's gonna put it in your long-term memory, and you're gonna forget about it. And then time will go by, and if things get worse, and you're scared, and you can't find oil, but you happen to come across some hamburger meat, you'll know what to do. Right? Okay? Now, I didn't do this with the meatballs. I just, right? Okay? I don't need to do this, people. I already got more animal fat coming in January if I want it. Which I might get still yet some. Definitely the pork. But he always likes to give me the beef. So, it's just, I have to make more room in my freezer. Because once I'm done doing this stuff, you know I'm going to be making pies. Right? Okay. So when I'm talking about having it just kind of like on a low, do you see? Just enough to boil off the liquid, the water. Okay, so that's all it needs. Smells like tallow already. Smells like beef fat. Okay, but because it's hamburger, it's gonna have now. Mind you, I did not spice this. Okay, nothing, no salt, nothing. And I'm just gonna now fill up. I ended up using salmon jars. Because my fish jars, right? But I've got more of them kicking around the house, so. For the simple fact is, I find that regular mouth size jars, they don't freeze well. They're more prone to crack. I mentioned that before. The wide mouth, the jar itself, seems to be thicker. And not only is it thicker, but they seem to be able to handle freezing, right? If I had more time, well, you see, you can't really put hot liquid like this, especially oil, into a plastic. So, every now and then, your jars do crack, right? After you take them out of the freezer, or depending on, how much liquid you put in, it rises. But fat doesn't rise, it just solidifies. And once it's solidified, you just put it in the freezer and just be careful not to knock your jars. That's all. Okay? I'd rather have some kind of animal fat than no animal fat at the expense of losing a jar or two. See, I can't see the headspace very well. Because things start to look the same to me. Okay? Alright. Now, when you do this kind of stuff, it always looks a little darker in terms of, why is it not white? Well, that's because it's hot. When it cools down, that's when it starts to go white. I don't know how white this one will go because of the types of fats that I'm using. Because you remember, it was just beef bones, right, basically, and animal, hamburger fat. That's it. That's all it is. So, but you can see what's happening here, right? Hold on a minute. Let me finish. Okay, so for what it's worth, you can see, right? So that's like a pint and a quarter. Just make sure you label your lids before you put them in the fridge. But before I put this in the fridge, I'm going to make sure it cools down. Okay? Right? And then after the fact, I'm freezing mine. But it's so important because you'll forget. You'll be like, what's this? Ooh. But if you know what it is, and this will stay frozen in the fridge in the freezer indefinitely. Okay? All right? Because it's beef fat, right? That's right. Fat is fat is fat. Okay? for the most part. Okay? So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get that other beef. I'm going to cut it up and get it ready. And actually, I don't have enough room in here to be putting meatballs. So I'm going to take these meatballs and I'm just going to throw them in this pot. I'm going to throw a little bit of liquid in here and I'm going to warm them up, right? And then put them in the jars and then I'll continue with the liquid. And right after the pots, then I bring out the pressure can. Oh boy, oh boy. Okay, so we'll look at that later after it solidifies and we'll see what color it is, okay? I tasted, like I'm tasting. It's pretty good, people. Okay, so, you know, as I watch my videos, not my videos, but other people's videos, right? You know, boots on the ground, of all these different places, lots of them in the United States. You know, this issue with thievery is really becoming a problem. Like, I don't know what our cops are doing. I guess they're just business as usual, not doing very much. Only when it benefits them. Well, not when it benefits the public, but when it benefits them, they're on the job. Either or, you know, in the States, you've got these organized thugs running into stores and grocery stores and whatever, stealing food. You know, it was bad enough they were stealing watches and those kind of things from jewelry stores back in the day. Well, now they're going into grocery. You know, they're walking out with full carts, and you know, these big box food chains, they're having to lock up their products, and you know, and now I know up in the Florida area, quite a few years back, this is a lot actually. I'm gonna get more than 7 jars, that's for sure. And I haven't even cut up that meat yet. Shit. I gotta get on it. That's a full pot. You know, people were killing horses that are out in the pasture for meat, for horse meat, even though it's illegal to eat horse meat. They don't sell horse meat in the United States of America for human consumption. But a lot of these Latin and Latin people and people from Cuba and Mexico and places like that, they will eat horse meat, right? And there's like a big, there was like, I'm talking years ago, and it probably still going, right? Just don't talk about it, right? You know, this underground economy of laundered horse meat. You know, people go out to go pet their horse, and they find their horse dead and slaughtered and chopped up into pieces, and big chunks of it have been taken, and then they go off and sell it to people, and people eat it, right? Well, they're doing that now to cows and pastures. Like, theft is getting out of control, like, everywhere. So I know that what happened to me and what's been happening to me over the last year, right? Because nothing stops these people. This is where, you know, cut off the hand, right? Start cutting off a few hands for the numbers of people that are going around stealing, thinking it's funny that they can get away with it time after time after time because ain't nobody doing jack shit about it. You know, in these developing countries, that's how they deal with that problem. Right? I'm not saying do it, but like, because it's pathetic. It's pathetic. Like whoever, Tisha said, oh, it was a pook. Remember I said there was another word for it, like for, you know, a junkie or a drug addict or something like that. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that, people, you know. We can't blame everything on homeless people, okay? Right? I don't think so. I think it's somebody watching my house that's close by. I do. So where are we with this? So this isn't quite hot enough yet, but it's hot enough to... So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some of this broth This is pretty full, so I don't know how this is going to work. I just want to heat up these meatballs before I kind of put them in the fridge, right? Before I kind of put them in the jar. There we go. So we just keep this, right? I didn't even flavor it. Shit. That's okay though. I'm gonna flavor this, and so we just want to heat it up. But I wanted to mention that, right? That the issue of theft is becoming a problem. Lots of people in the States, you know, they're getting their chickens robbed. You know, they go off and go do something, they come back and all their quail is gone, their gardens have been raided, and, you know, they're killing cows out in the field now, and, you know, it's like they go into grocery stores and, you know, they do the smash and grab, and, or they're walking out with full shopping carts and just being really brazen and bold about it because nobody's doing anything about it. Like, what a stupid society we live in. Like, it's so stupid. Hold on. Okay, so we've got the ground beef, as is, no salt, nothing, just degreased, right? And we've seen what we did basically with the grease, as well as the grease from when I was cooking the bones for the broth, right? And you'll see it will start to change color, okay? This is the beef. I'd say, oh, I don't know, maybe $10 or so, $8, $10. I don't remember when I bought it. I didn't bother to look on the package as if I could read anything anymore these days. So it was vacuum sealed. Could have been there for a year or 2 or 3, who knows. And it's so good. Okay? And that was boiled with the bones. I only threw in 2 tablespoons of this, and this is just a beef bouillon type from a TNT, an Asian store that I really like. And then I added some in here, not too much, just enough. So when you open the jar, at best you maybe want a little more salt. You can put some pepper in there. I suppose you could add in another bouillon. It depends on what you're making, right? But it's already flavorful, and that's what I wanted, right? And now, I'm just kind of heating things up. I'm going to take a 5 or 10 minute break. This is so good. I'll get the pressure canner. And once this is hot, move this over. Well, no, because I have to fill up the jars. I guess bring the pressure canner over here because I'm missing a burner. I have to go buy a burner. And get that going because, you know, hot on hot, right? I'm just getting everything ready. I think this is going to be more than 7 jars. So I'm probably going to have to do it 90 minutes twice. I don't think I'm going to get this into 7 jars. I think it's going to be more than 7. Which makes me feel good. Alright? So hold on. Okay, so in a situation like this, you can't be afraid of pots. Okay, you can see what I'm doing here. Now, I only put 2 tablespoons of that in here, or so. Okay, and look how these meatballs are holding their shape. Look at that. What do you think? I think that's just grand. And what did I use? Do you remember? Applesauce, fresh applesauce, and a little bit of Gabarzo flour. Okay? And a bit of seasoning salt. That was it. And from what I can see, it did what I wanted it to do. That's exactly what I don't see them falling apart. Okay? For me, it starts to all kind of blend in. But we don't want to overstir. We're just heating it up and getting them ready for the jars. Okay? Whew. Now, I need to find a lid for this because I don't have a burner here. Otherwise, it'd be on low. So hold on. Okay, so I don't know if people realize, but we're like getting closer and closer to like a world war here.
This conquest of the Crimean Peninsula is least in
Right?
the minds of Ukrainians, as they have been far more successful fighting the war against Russia than they would be on their own.
Now what I'm doing is I'm adding the meatballs in without the liquid first. Okay?
The United States has declared war against Russia.
Basically what I'm doing here, people, is I'm creating comfort food.
Weaponry,
Okay?
food, supplies,
Because
technology, and satellites to Ukraine.
a one-size quart jar
war, just like World War I and World War II
with other food
over, France,
could feed a family of 4 to 5 people.
That's not the real reason that the war broke out.
In a war economy.
Long periods of time. I mean, remember they signed a
Or any kind of economy for those below a certain income level.
Is that conflagration moment. It's a moment I've been warning about
You know?
for a very long time now. And the Crimean
I'm really
Peninsula,
impressed
if
with
it was
these
retaken, I
meatballs.
believe
Like,
would
so
start
impressed. You don't know.
nuclear
Okay? And because we
conflict
used
in
a
the world.
bean flour,
I do believe that there is going to be
you know,
a
you
nuclear
can
war very soon, ladies and
Gabarzo
gentlemen. I
beans.
think you need to be
Okay?
prepared. Surely by
These
the fact
things
that
are going to be
Russia's
perfectly fine.
shelters in Moscow. They've
Yeah.
been attacked in recent days by U.S.
Like they're
drones,
not losing their
and
shape
other
at
types
all.
of weapons. It's getting closer and
Nope.
closer to Russian territory, within Russian
So right now I'm
territory,
just
and
filling
this
up the jars.
is becoming very, very dangerous. And
I
something
can
that
only
Vladimir
do
Putin
7 at a
is going
time.
to deal with shortly. The longer he draws
So
out
we'll
this
just
war,
see. I've only got
the
3 more
longer
jars
he allows the West
left.
to continue with
So,
armaments and funding, the worse off.
We'll just
I
see what we
believe,
get,
in my opinion,
and then
he is.
If
So what
if
kind
I'm
of
down to
shock
1 or
treatment
2
does
jars
Vladimir
left
Putin
after the
cause?
fact,
Why is the West
I don't know.
up in
I don't know if I
rationing
want
up
to can
right
be
now, saying
standing
they're
here
gonna
for
take
90
back the
minutes,
Crimean Peninsula?
right?
I mean, if there was really to be peace, you would think at the very least,
So
Putin
we'll
would
just see
keep
what we get.
Crimea, and the West would
When you
clearly
do the
take away
hamburger,
parts that
ground
they've
beef,
taken back recently.
You just
But
put it
that
in
doesn't seem to be
loosely. You
happening.
don't pack it in,
So let's take
okay?
this another layer.
Because the
forward
water,
of
remember, has
where
to
I
travel
think
through.
maybe the black
The
swan
heat.
might lie.
The heat
And of
has
course
to
we know
travel
we're in an
through,
economic
right?
financial collapse. Of course
So
we know
you don't
the
want
country's
to be
always down. Of course you know you need to
stuffing
buy
it
gold and
full.
silver. You should be doing
You
that
just
right
kind of
now.
want to
You
just
click
put it
on
in there
gold,
loosely.
gold.com. You need to get out of the dollar.
And
You
of
need
course,
to put foreign
meatballs
assets
are round,
and
so, you
tangibles
know, the
into real
heat's
assets.
going
I
to be
tell you
able
guys
to
this
travel
all the
through
time.
them.
But where I
Okay?
think that there could be,
And because you're not
some
using a
kind of black
flour,
swan is
everything should be
outside
fine.
of
Now, I'm
the
thinking with
current
this turkey,
war front. What do I mean by
I
that?
might even go as
I've
far
been
as
paying attention
making
to the
turkey soup.
conflagration
A really
and the
nice
war
turkey
criminals
soup.
fought on behalf of India and
And
Pakistan.
canning turkey soup.
Okay, there is an argument
That's what I'm thinking.
that wars outside of Ukraine being fought right now, like that, which is a flashpoint, could in fact be the bombshell wild card event that transpires that sends the whole world in chaos.
Pakistan ruling party leader Shazia
You see, you
Amani
never
has
really
threatened
know,
a nuclear war with India.
right, how many
A day after
jars. You
India
think
had
you're going to get
strongly
more,
condemned the neighboring
but
countries of Foreign Minister Bilal
you don't.
Bhutto for his
I might only get
uncivilized
8 jars.
outburst
If
against
that's the
Prime
case, I'll
Minister
only
Modi.
can 7.
According to reports,
And I'll leave
Ms.
this beef
Mari
for
told
something else.
reporters at a news conference in support of Mr. Bhutto that India
make
should
it
not
with rice
forget that
tomorrow or something.
Pakistan has an
And then if I have,
atom
depending
bomb
on how
and
much
status
stock
is
I have
not
left,
going to remain silent. They
I
not
will
back
take the 20
down
minutes to
if
can the
need
stock for
arises.
sure.
India on Friday blasted Mr.
Right.
Bhutto over his offensive personal attack on Prime Minister Modi, calling it a new low. Even for Pakistan,
Oh,
Delhi
it
said
changed.
Pakistan lacks the
changed
capacity
its,
to cast aspersions on India and added that make it
narrative
Pakistan terrorism has to stop.
People are also saying, for example, that Vladimir Putin's regime or government is propaganda. There could be a coup d'etat of
How many jars do I got
himself.
here?
He could be removed from office as a public embarrassment.
You just want
that
7 jars.
The oligarchs are turning against them, and that the KGB essentially are.
If I can
turning
get away with
against
7 jars, that
I
would be
think that's
great.
Russian propaganda. However, as Henry Kissinger was pointing out earlier today, and he's a neocon warmonger, it does remain a possibility, and I've discussed this possibility before. So, if that were to happen, you would have a Mother Russia that would be sent and jeopardized into utter chaos. It would split
this is
into
where I
probably
can't
2
see.
different regions. Would include other countries fighting against it or within it to reclaim territory. You could have multi-events at once taking place. Atomic weapons in places like India and Pakistan, while at the same time Ukraine and Russia collapses. I mean, we could have literally an all-out World War III event at any moment. And as we approach December
He's not the
25th,
first
the
person to
holiday
say this
season
either.
for Christmas, as we see the shelters and the emergency bomb shelters talking
The meatballs,
about.
you can just
If
shake
we
them
see
down.
NBC ratchet up its rhetoric, and
Right.
as we see Vladimir Putin clearly deploy these
Try not to
instruments of war,
clang your
now
jars.
deploying their third multi-nuclear
Right.
warhead missile, we've got to ask the question: are we close?
You're looking at about a 1-inch
We're
headspace.
close to the big one.
Okay?
Anyways, I love you. Understand that in this war of minds, in this war of technology, you must have discernment. So please think for yourself. Think outside of the box. Realize the media wants you to think a certain way. They're leading a horse to water. Also, I just wanted to comment briefly. I do think that they're going to deploy, in my humble opinion, an event very soon. You know, the thing we can't talk about, and it's going to be round 2. And
This is YouTube.
And the reason that they're going to do
Gotta
this,
be
in my
that
opinion,
bitch.
Number one, because I can see through the lens of what
Right.
they're probably and possibly going to do next, is to discredit, anyone.
So
that has
just
gone
try and
against
bring
the
them up to a
popular narrative
1-inch
of resistance
headspace,
and having not complied.
and then you
If
fill
you know
up
what
your
I mean.
liquid to a 1-inch
So there would be
headspace.
no more perfect
So I'm going to use the same liquid
redeployment or second phase
that I
of what
warmed
we've
up
just
these
been through. You know, the
meatballs
topic
in.
we can't talk about. Then for them
For
to
the
deploy
meatballs.
something even far
And it
more
looks like I'm going to get
so they could discredit
one jar
any of you and anyone that thinks for
of
themselves,
this
wanna
beef.
comply, enjoys their own
And I
freedom
wouldn't
of
take the
exercise,
time
own decisions about themselves, you know what I mean?
to
So I'm also watching that. But physically,
pressure can
in terms
just
of
1 jar
a
of
nuclear giant like
chopped up
Russia
beef
and Putin really being
in a
on his
pressure
heels,
canner.
running out of
Right.
reserves, and now deploying his
it won't even get me
multi-nuclear
another jar.
warhead missile tells me
It looks like I'm only going to get 1 jar out of it. So I got 7 jars for $70 at $10 a jar.
Or there's a conflagrated
Basically.
event, let's say,
But
with
then
India and
well,
Pakistan
that's not
through
including
that
the bones.
as an example. We could see global world chaos.
Right?
We also know that
So
China
we'll
is
say another
invading
$8
Taiwan,
in bones.
and they are going
But I'm gonna have extra
Same
broth.
reasons
I'm
in
gonna have
moving
beef
out of
broth.
there and their semiconductor business
Most
moving
definitely.
out into places
So I'll have
in
a
the
few jars of
United
that,
States like
which will
Arizona, because
compensate.
That tells me that
Right? I
they
don't know
can't
how
rely
much
on
it is
that
to
region
buy
anymore
beef
for
broth,
parts.
but
It means that the growing destabilization
I don't have to worry about it because it's
of a
delicious.
de-globalized world. In a globalization
I'm gonna show you
world that is
here.
absolutely
And then I'm gonna
collapsed,
fill
is
everything up.
Prepare you and your families. This holiday, I encourage you to buy gold. Click the link below and go to AMT.
Well, not everybody can afford
Get our
gold.
bars, get our silver
Some of these
rounds,
YouTubers
get our
are so out of
soft
touch
mints,
with
buy as much as
reality.
you can, get an Archangel Michael,
You know?
gold and silver. I
They're
appreciate
the
all of
middle
you
class
tuning in, your patronage
YouTubers.
especially. If you need any questions
So
on
yeah,
all the updates or
that
anything
jar
like
sucked
you can
up
reach
that
out to us
that beef
at support@amtvmedia.com.
pretty much.
You are the resistance.
There's
You
just
are the
enough
light
there maybe
force.
for a Marnie
You are the truth, and you all have victory through our King, King Jesus.
with a meal.
I love you. God bless, and Jesus Christ is King.
He'll like that. Right? So, I'll just show you now what's going on here. So what we're going to do is we got 4 jars of meatballs, 2 jars of just loosely browned hamburger, and 1 jar of, it's probably the cheaper chuck, right? You know, it's nothing fancy. Maybe a sirloin steak or something like that. You know how I am with my shopping, right? Do you see what's going on here? Okay. So I'm now going to take the juice of the meatballs and I'm going to fill it up, right? And then we'll see what's left. Continue. And then get into this part. Do you see? Look at that. That's going to be an extra 2 or 3 jars of just straight up broth. And when you do broth, it's only 20 minutes. Okay? So hold on. So yeah, all you can do is the best that you can do, right?
Russia too is
So I just
Turkey.
vinegar,
That's what their foreign
okay?
ministry said.
Gotta wipe your
We
rims.
hope that Ankara will refrain from actions
Now,
that could lead to a
beef is
dangerous
very, very
deterioration
greasy.
of the already difficult situation in Syria.
But that's okay,
Russia is advising against escalation.
right?
So
It
both
is what it
America and Russia
is.
are warning Turkey. Neither of them want the operation to go ahead.
This is really good.
But will it be
The broth
enough
is
to
really,
deter
really
Erdogan?
good.
Let's look at the past.
And,
Since 2016, Turkey has launched
I'm
3
pleased with the
operations into northern
meatballs.
Syria. Each time they fought the Kurdish fighters.
Right?
And each time they got more territory.
It looks like I'm going to get, probably 3 or 4 jars of
this time he has more reasons
broth,
to attack. 2023 is
which is
election
perfect
year in
for me.
Turkey. The economy certainly will
I don't
benefit
use,
Erdogan re-election.
unless I have no
Military
choice,
operation will.
wide
Nationalist
mouth
voters in Turkey generally support
jars
attacks against
for
the
broth,
Kurds.
unless I have
But
no
this
choice,
time, he has
right?
insurance.
I have a
Both
choice
NATO and Russia are keen
because
to peace.
I got regular
Just look at
mouth
the
jars.
events of today. America's
So I will be
ambassador to the
using
United
those, so I
Nations
will
was in
wash
Turkey. Next week, Russia's
4 or 5 of
Foreign
them,
Minister Sergei
just in
Lavrov
case
will
I might get 5 jars.
The
I don't
question
think
is,
so, though.
Where does this end?
Right?
Let's assume Turkey does
I'll be lucky
invade
to
Syria.
get 4.
That would pit Russia and Turkey against each other.
So I'll do this for
Every
90
time that
minutes.
happens, there is chaos.
Now,
And I have examples. 2015, a Russian war
because
plane
I'm
was shot down
I'm
by
going to
Turkish
try to
jets.
avoid
Ankara
that
claimed the aircraft was flying close to their borders. 2020,
siphoning.
Russia and Syria carried out an air
This
strike
time
on
before I
Israel.
open the
More than
canner
30
after the
Turkish soldiers were
fact.
killed. So Turkey and Russia have a history of fighting in Syria.
even though the pressure drops and everything drops, and
Here's a new
it's
question
an
now.
indication
Will
that you
NATO
can
get
open it,
involved this time?
I'm going to
We're
leave
doing
it
so much for Ukraine
for about a
after all,
half
which
an
is
hour,
how NATO
45
member
minutes more,
Turkey is.
maybe even
So
up to an
technically,
extra
NATO should be
hour
lining up to help Turkey.
before I
Why
open the
haven't they?
canner, because I don't want that
Because of two
siphoning
reasons. Number one, Article 5
I don't
of NATO
want
covers attacks inside NATO territory.
to lose my liquid any
So
more
far,
than I'm going to
all
lose it.
attacks have been outside Turkey, in Syria,
Right?
which is not
And I
NATO
can see
territory.
this one's
So
dropped a
collective
bit.
defense was never activated. Reason number two, the Kurdish groups are key allies of the West. So the United States never approved of Turkey's
For
operation.
what I can see.
But this time that could change. If NATO is serious about admitting Sweden and Finland, they need Erdogan on board.
It's really
And if
hard for
Putin
me
wants
to
Bashar al-Assad
get the
on his
headspace
side,
going here.
He
But
needs to defend Syrian territory.
like I said, do
Neither
what
side
you
may
can.
want it. But Erdogan is dragging
Right.
both of them into a new theater of conflict.
if you let your jars sit for a little while before you,
Desperate times
Too
call for
quick
desperate
to-
measures, they say, and this is the lesson from our next story too.
put on the lids
US
and get them in the
media is
canner,
reporting
you'll
that
find
Joe
that
Biden will be heading to Saudi Arabia.
the
same
longer it
kingdom
sits
he
in the
once
jar,
vowed to make a
it
pariah.
settles, right?
Biden will go there sometime later this month. The trip has not been officially announced yet, but the message from it is loud and clear. It is advantage MBS. Mohammed bin
It settles.
Salman,
Now,
the
I've
Crown
already
Prince of Saudi
debubbled
Arabia,
this.
He's got Biden to salvage ties without saying a word. Flashback to 2018, the assassination of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi.
And if you have to backtrack.
Restored between the US and Saudi Arabia. There is a bipartisan demand.
Like
to
I'm
punish Iran.
backtracking.
But the Trump
Wipe your
administration
rims
could
again.
not afford to do that. Strategic ties were too old, and the money
go a
coming to
tablespoon
arms
at a
sale was
time.
too dear. But Joe Biden said
Okay.
he wanted none of it. Biden promised to put
Like I said,
war
just
into
do the
the
best
country.
that you
He
can.
ran for office, swearing to make Saudi Arabia pay the price for murdering Khashoggi. He vowed to make Saudi Arabia a pariah. And he did not
So,
shy
yeah,
away from pointing
I'm
the
thinking
finger
maybe
at
I'll just make
MBS,
chicken
the
soup.
Crown Prince.
Because I'm into this comfort food right
Presidential
now.
hopeful Joe Biden said, and I'm quoting,
Right,
Khashoggi was in
you make a
fact
really good
murdered
pot of
and
chicken
dismembered,
soup.
and I believe on the
And yes,
order
you
of
can
the
have
Crown
1 or 2,
Prince.
3 noodles and
Doesn't get
4
more
noodles in there
straightforward than this.
per jar,
Now,
or
President
5
Biden is
noodles per
flying
jar.
down
It's
to
not
meet that
gonna.
same Crown Prince.
Just make
And
your
that's
chicken
hardly
soup as
surprising.
long as it's not a lot
Biden
of
needs to do
noodles.
some
Okay,
serious
you're not
damage
canning
control,
noodles.
because the war in
You're
Ukraine
canning
has
chicken
not
soup
left
that
him
might have
with
1 or
any
2
other
noodles.
option. Energy prices are soaring
Maybe
at home
4 or
and
5.
abroad, and Biden must woo Saudi
It will be
Arabia.
fine.
The kingdom is
I
not
know,
only
'cause
the
I've
world's
done it.
top oil exporter, one of the top,
And
but
when you
also
open them
the
up,
leader of
and
the
if it's good
global
soup
oil
inside,
cartel,
oh
the
boy,
OPEC.
is it ever nice.
So Joe Biden
Andre
is
and
heading to
Amari
Riyadh
really like
with
it.
midterm elections just
So
a few
yeah,
months
wipe
away.
your jars again if
He
you
will
had
play
to top
all
off
his
like I
cards
just
to try
did.
and reduce energy prices.
I'm starting to get
But where will
tired.
this leave his pariah promise?
But that's okay.
No
I'm up
one's
for the
drilling
challenge
wider
here.
than MBS. He did not have to do very much to get Biden to
I'm
bid
I'm
with Biden's
satisfied with
dollars.
this.
All he
It's
had to do was,
expensive,
one,
people.
get the OPEC to increase oil production.
I'm glad that the Kennedy
two,
pub gave me that hamburger.
extend
I
the
got
truce
2
in
extra
Yemen.
jars here.
You see, there was already a
Yeah.
2-month truce in place.
So
This was
I
between
guess
the Houthi rebels
I don't
and
remember
the
how much
Saudi-led
the bones
coalition that
were.
was fighting
We'll
them.
put them at $4 a
The truce has
bag,
been extended. So
right?
these were the
Because
concessions
bones are
that
expensive.
MBS made. And before you know it,
so,
American media was abuzz with an
I spent
upcoming
40.
trip to Saudi Arabia.
Then I got that
Biden
hamburger
was issuing
for
direct statements in praise of Saudi
know,
Arabia.
Christmas
Statements like this one. And I'm
at
quoting,
20,
Saudi
so that's
Arabia
60.
demonstrated- these are Biden's words.
Then
Saudi
we'll
Arabia
see.
demonstrated
We'll just
courageous
round it
leadership
off at
by
$10
taking
for the
initiatives early
sirloin
on to endorse
steak.
and implement terms of the UN
So that's 70, and then another
Does Joe
$8
Biden really
for the
stand to
bones.
gain by making
right?
This
So that's
U-turn
78
on
bucks
Saudi
in
policy.
beef.
Not too many months ago,
Okay, and I bought
the
those
Biden
bones last
administration was
year,
slapping sanctions
and
against
I bought
Saudi
that
officials.
sirloin last
They were
year,
releasing intelligence reports on
right?
Khashoggi's murder. As
And
soon
I
as
bought
Russia
my
invaded
beef
Ukraine, Biden chose to stand down.
at last
Sometime
year's
in the month of
price.
February, White House
So
officials
$78.
secretly shipped to Saudi Arabia. It was later confirmed that the visit
I don't know.
was intended to quote-unquote
That's why you got to
reduce the
see it maybe
impact
as comfort
on the
food,
global oil
because
marketplace.
this little bit
Biden
of
then
what's in these
reportedly
jars can
wanted
go a
to talk
long,
to
long
MBS
way.
over the phone.
With some
Reports that the
gravy
Saudis
and
never allowed answered that call.
mashed potatoes or
But
rice
MBS
or
made it a point to send a message
whatever
to Biden.
you want to do with it.
He gave an interview to an American media outlet,
Right.
and this is what he
And
said.
it just
and I
adds
quote
that
him,
little extra protein to the
"We
diet
don't have the right to lecture you in America.
with the calories and
The same
whatnot.
goes the other way. You don't have the right to interfere in our internal issues."
So these are almost ready to go in the
Even if
canner.
Biden makes some
So I just
energy
gotta
gains
switch the
with
canner
his
over to
Saudi
this
visit,
burner.
his political losses will outweigh them. Biden will be paying
I think
a
I got 'em
political
all.
price for his outreach to MBS, and so failing to deliver on yet another election.
Do you
promise.
see?
And there's a reason I say this.
It's looking
Let's
pretty
go back to
good.
the
It
month of
smells
March.
really
White House was
good
testing
too.
waters. There were reports told
Okay,
that
so
Putin was leading
basically
the
90
Biden
minutes
public
because it's
office.
meat,
His latest interview
right?
surprises.
If you're looking
New
at
York
fish,
politics.
you're looking at 100 to 110. 90 minutes for meat, any kind of meat, doesn't matter what it is. In a quart-sized jar, and 75 minutes in a pint-sized jar. Okay?
Inflation in Pakistan seems
So,
to be crossing all limits.
That's what we're gonna do.
Look at the headline.
And then when you,
last month, inflation in Pakistan jumped
like I said,
13.76%,
after it's
the
all
highest
said and
in
done,
more than 2 years. Foreign reserves,
everything
meanwhile,
drops.
are at their lowest.
You think you
They've
can
fallen
open the-
to $10
don't.
billion. That's a 50%
Just
drop
let
from
it
August
cool
2020, and this money will barely
for an
cover
extra
2 months of imports.
45 minutes to an hour,
Bad news.
so that you don't get this.
Moody's has lowered Pakistan's economic outlook from stable
Because
to
if
negative.
you
It
open the
says country
canner too
faces
soon,
a heightened
even though you can,
vulnerability.
you just speed up that process, and you're gonna
It
lose
means that
your
Pakistan
beautiful
faces
broth.
uncertainty around securing
Okay?
external financing
Not, I
to
mean,
meet
you're gonna get some
country's
kind of
needs.
siphoning, but
More
you want to just try and
it
cut
will
back
not be
on
able to
it.
secure foreign loans.
Now
to
I get to
survive.
clean up
So what should
and
Islamabad prioritize right now? Charging
get on
the
with this
former Prime
turkey
Minister
and
with treason, or
figure out what I'm
securing
gonna do with
enough
that.
funds to stay afloat. The
But
earlier
of course,
they
after
ask
I'm
this
done
question to
taking these
themselves,
out,
the better their
I'm
chance
going to
of
can the
survival
rest of this
may be.
beef broth for 20 minutes.
And talking about important questions,
Okay, you just have to pace yourself through this. It's now 6 o'clock in the morning, the next day. I ended up laying down after I turned off the pressure canner. Of course, I fell asleep. Alright, been up already for a couple of hours. I got 2 jars of beef broth, so that's really good. And we've got 7 jars of meat. I'm I'm just cruising the internet, right? And people like I think about this foundation and just the amount of money that I spent and just everything, and in light of what's been going on in the world today to multiple people, right? And kind of where the world is going. Nothing's changed. It's just they're going after, like, the government. It's the government and their policies and their employees that instrument those policies. And, people have been infected with something. Not everybody, but a whole lot of them literally have been infected with something, or they've been replaced with something. Okay? And, just a lot of trickery and sorcery, and sorcery is a broad word, right? It's supposed it makes people like, oh, I'm a warlock. Yeah, I got powers. Yeah, I'm sure you do. More like cuckoo over the cuckoo's nest, right? Anyway, catching wind that Bitchute, as you know, as a company, is being held hostage by HSBC Bank, to which I've been dealing with them through the foundation for 22 years, to which the 12 accounts that I have connected to them as I was trying to promote the foundation, you know, is just kind of on lockdown, right? Because when they took John, everything just kind of went to the wayside, and this one board director who I thought would step up to the plate and what is this? Why am I having such a problem with my timer? Hold on, people. I gotta get some glasses or something. Anyway, just lives are being destroyed. Okay? Obviously, these individuals that do this crap, they go after the poor. That's why they manufacture poverty. Right? They find ways to keep people in debt, high debt. You know, they derail your household periodically. You know, they come in and medically kidnap family members, you know, wrongfully apprehend, fire people from their jobs, whatever it is. They find ways, murder, you know, luring others to their death. Nobody's held to account, basically. And whatever this guy is going through, that's the founder and the CEO of Bitchute, I hate to say it, but I kind of been already through it. That's just the way I see it, people. Right? The only thing is, poor people don't normally talk about it. They resort to taking up the bottle, or, you know, they do drugs, or, you know, they just give up. You know, they don't have the skill set to fight back. And even when you think you have some kind of skill set with some courage, you end up like me. You know, doesn't matter what you do, how you do it, how much money you spend, why you do it, you know, how many people you affect positively or negatively. At the end of the day, it's just one big circle that when your time comes, poof, you're gone. Nothing moves except you. It all kind of falls off to the wayside. And, you know, lives are just insignificant, right? They don't, you know, I got this credit card from Walmart. Like I said, I don't know if it's just for Walmart or if it's just a general MasterCard. It's probably a general MasterCard, right? Either or, you know, I'm still sitting here debating whether I should renew the trademark and follow that dream, the good fight, whatever it is. And like, I'm just not going to do it, people. I'm going to be working on paying down bills and trying to figure out where I'm going to go to next, even though I won't be able to afford to live anywhere in Canada, really. Right? Because of the greed and the corruption with the economy, in terms of the housing, and the people that are in these middle class households, they don't want to step down from their status. If anything, they're looking at their portfolios, and the only interest that they really have is, one, how they can keep them and not have them erode and fall off to the wayside or have their assets robbed from them. And then if they can get to that point where, you know, at that plateau where they're just kind of like that, and they're you know, they're still not satisfied. They want to become millionaires, and once they become millionaires, you know, and they get to that point, they're still not satisfied. Then they're going for the billions. I think that's what Latrice Allen showed us, okay? There's a lot of Latrice Allens out there, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, like I can't be bothered with those kind of individuals, because again, many of them are infected, like an Eleanor Gilding, right? They're completely infected with that virile freaking shit, right? With the Black Eye Club, and you know, or maybe they crawled out of some lab in the middle of the night, right? Knocked the original on the head, dragged them off to the swamp, threw them into the swamp. Maybe that's why the swamp never gets cleaned, right? So, you know, I can't compete with people that want to compete with themselves, basically, and everybody else, right? Like, you know, I understand people like to, they're go-getters and movers and shakers. Not all, but some, right? And when you get up into that crowd, you know, you got to have a pretty big club in order to keep everybody at bay. And so, like, in regards to this Bitchute, you know, it's just the same pile of rigmarole, right? Not every story is exactly the same, but we all have our stories where those above us like to keep us down on the ground so they can kick us around town when they want, ruin our reputations, slander us, defame us, right? Demoralize us. They do it by any means necessary. If they can't do it one way, they'll do it another way. And I don't know if that will ever change, people. I just don't. After all this time, you know, me, I can understand, because, you know, I've been really vulnerable and with my family, it's a poor family, and I can see them getting away with it, like the government and their employees and their partner groups, you know, that organized religion. But when you're getting into the upper echelon of what is supposed to be respectable in society, in terms of the businessman, the businesswoman, the happy family, you know, that kind of thing, right? The, you know, the morally ethic individual, right? When you get it, when you see me, I'm a single mom. I've always been beaten up over that because I was the easy target, right? That's through social engineering, right? And but we know why they're doing it in terms of the new game. And all these individuals that are like me, right? That have a few more assets that are disposable, and they don't mind going outside of the box and taking risks and all that other stuff. They're going to find out. It doesn't matter. They're going to end up broke like everybody else. Unless, of course, they're completely corrupt and they're signed up with the devil. You know, watch these videos, people. It's pretty plain to see who is it's pretty plain to see after a while. You know, just whatever. If you, I don't say look for it, but if you're aware of it, like some of these people that cruise the internet and do these videos purporting to be so religious and all this other crap, that's all it is, people. It's just crap. Okay? They're signed up with something else. They're the ones that are the sheep in wolf. They're the ones that are the wolf in sheep clothing. Okay. So that they can lead the masses away from whatever, right? Because it just. Oh, who cares, right? I don't want to say I have regrets for trying to do what I did, but as a poor person, it was probably a foolish thing. But you don't know these things until you try it. But just through my travels and my experiences, and I just see it happening on a grander scale now to those that are not like this, in terms of worshiping the devil, right? Their alliances actually, they'll be saying, I preach God, I'm this, in terms of God, like a higher being, and higher, like with moral ethics, right? When in fact that's not the case, people. It's just a game. It's just a charade. That's all it is. They're just trying to keep their portfolios like that, and they're shooting for the next level, for that $1 million. And then once they get to the million, again, they're not going to be satisfied, because they're never fucking satisfied. You see, that's the thing. And that's the problem with the world. Alright. Anyway, I didn't want to get off into that tangent, so I'm just going to turn off this now, and then when I come back, we'll just take a boo at this, and then I go into the turkey. So I'm getting the fridge, pull out the turkey in the next little bit. This is only 20 minutes, right? This is only 20 minutes. So this goes fast. So then, now after that, I'm going to be getting into the turkey. Okay, that'll be a new video. So I'm like waiting, right? I only got a few more minutes, and I'm thinking, and I'm thinking, this guy that runs Bitchute, right? The founder, right? The founder, the parent of Bitchute, right? He's like me, people. He's watching his children just being gang stalked and targeted, and some of them being lured to their deaths, and some of them being medically kidnapped, and just everything that I've been watching my family go through. This guy is watching his family go through the same thing, people. Yeah, it's just on a different, not every story is the same, right? And in terms of bank lockdowns and all, with the foundation with me, HSBC Bank is on lockdown, right? Van City with the foundation is on lockdown because of what they did to Uncle John. Even CIBC Bank, even though I do still, after all these years, I'm still connected, but no, that's still on lockdown. We still have that lawsuit that Judge Ross was, it's just barely hanging on. Well, I wonder why. Maybe because you guys keep covering up the dirt, right? It's not barely hanging on. It's under your map. That's where it's at, people. And Andre's trust account is on lockdown. Shemai's trust account is on lockdown. Requires Uncle John's signature, who was medically kidnapped, right? All these banks on lockdown. Hey, you think about that. This guy, Bitchute, right, the founder, his shit is on lockdown. As his kids are being picked off one here, picked off one there, picked off another one over there. Same story, just change the narrative a bit, change the names to protect identities. The crooks, that is, to protect the crooks. And no, I am not a devil worshiper. But, people do shit like this sometimes. But when they do it with intent, as they purport themselves to be something else, you need to pay attention to that shit. Because it's called controlled opposition. And that's one thing that we have a lot of in British Columbia, Canada, is controlled opposition with that upper so-called middle class that wants to maintain what they have so they can jump up to the next level and get richer. Not for the community, not for the country, not for the province, but for themselves, people. Nothing more and nothing less. That's it. You know? So yeah, this guy's like a parent that's watching his family imploding from the inside because of the so-called professionals trying to protect the public as they exploit the public and go after kids and the elderly and newborns and the disabled. Anybody that's weak and meek and good, basically. Because you don't see those kind of people running around out there committing white-collar crime. It's not fucking teenagers running around kidnapping old people from hospitals. It's not old people going around injuring babies at the time of their birth so that it can be passed on to the next research study. So that whoever's doing that study can work on their portfolio and build up their personal wealth. And so on, and so on, and so on. Well, this guy that's going through what he's going through is, I already been there and done it. I can completely relate to what he's going through, trust me. And yeah, my HSBC bank accounts are on lockdown. Thank you to the province of British Columbia, Canada, and their shenanigans, and their charlottes, and their prostitutes. See, I get too riled up. Because I already know. I already know, people. And I'm helpless to help anybody anymore. Because my government won't allow it. They only allow you to think what you might be able to do, but you soon, over a period of years, find out you can't do jack shit. Unless, of course, you're one of those things. Yeah. There needs to be a culling of those things. Seriously. And there might come a day when they're completely exposed and human beings will be on the hunt to cull them. Because they bring nothing good to the planet. And this dude that's trying to do the right thing with his website, yeah, well, he's figuring it out now, isn't he? Alright, so after that's out, I'll just give you a little boo, and then I'll upload this video, and then I'm going to get into the turkey. I'm going to start cutting it up. I'm going to do 2 pots, because I'm making turkey soup that I can with a few noodles, because I know I've done it and it's good. And then whatever else is in the other pot will be canned in a jar. And then we're going to go on to that ham. Yeah. That's what we're going to do. And then we're just going to do a guesstimate of how much this costed. So far we're at what, $78 just with the beef and the beef bones alone. And that's on sale with 3 packs of hamburger. And then we'll throw in the dollar amount for the turkey. I don't know if there's a sticker on the ham, but there probably is. So I figure, we're at $78 already, people. We're like at 100. You're going to see how much $100 gets in food in terms of a meal. Right? So if they can't get you one way, they're going to come after you when you can't afford to feed your family. And they're going to accuse you of this, accuse you of that, right? Set you up over here, set you up over there, gang stalk you over here, gang stalk you over there, send in their fucking clowns. Because they're so honorable. Yeah. Okay.
So, naik campsite. Baik-baik jumpa.
So, as I'm sitting here,
Aku tak bawa marah, bata.
trying to understand my world,
Ikan baru ke kita? Mana ada?
thinking about Papa Bitchute and his problems,
Abah sakit.
as he sees his children being picked off one by one.
Bailando.
And I'm on TikTok,
Bailando.
just cruising the internet, you know, trying to get an understanding of
Tak nak join sekarang.
why it's so messed up, right? And I'm basically looking at some sort of Asian woman here with her little striptease, right? Let's face it, that's what it is, people. Every now and then, I go on to TikTok, and this is what I see. Namely women that are on a platform in a little box that are required, okay, to draw in, I don't know,
Nama apa Dele? You campak dulu.
Tokens,
baru I
right?
bagi. Sekarang tak ada modal lagi.
and they're on a quota, right? But there's rules, guidelines. We're trying to protect women here, right? Protect the children, you know what I'm saying? But it's still a cock tease,
Campak dua klik,
right?
apa-apa je tu.
Just a cock
Kenapa
tease, eh?
macam tak timbul je tu? Apa yang tak timbul?
Maybe a little flash.
Bodohnya kotak kecil.
Did you ever do that? I did that a couple times in a bar when I was young and frisky. I seen a cute guy over there.
Tengok titik mango sini. Bodohnya kotak kecil.
But I sure in the heck didn't get up on the internet and do it on the internet, people. And now I understand everybody has their hustle, right? This is a hustle, right? And like,
TikTok tu ke? Wow, tak yalah baca bodoh.
I might get a copyright strike for this, but besides that point, can always become a BitChute exclusive.
Ada lagi Mamat Azim ni.
As I'm on the again, people, again. Okay, I'm gonna finish this video. I got a long day ahead of me. I still have energy. Isn't that amazing? That's what I was hoping. I was hoping that my body would adjust to this rigmarole. I am trying to write everything down. What happened was my memory card was full, so that it kicked out. Right, so we lost that train of thought. But I'm going to come back to it just briefly, and I'm going to go and I'm going to show you the end result of $78 worth of beef products, not including the jars. Okay, but in the meantime, you can see I've got Amari's and I got mine. Okay. Big difference. But I included my landlord's medication in here with that secret ingredient, right? I put that in. I'm putting it in 2 times a day now. I wanted to put it in before I went to sleep, but I lay down and fell asleep. So anyway, I put it in after. So I put one in late in the morning, like we're talking 2, 3, whatever, like around that time, between 12 and 4. Or between 4 and whatever. Okay, so I had to turn on this computer. That's why my face is so bright. And get them up on there. So we cut off in mid-sentence. So this is a subject that it requires discussion. First thing, record straight, I don't know this dude from Adam. I'm just going to talk about him, okay? I can't, my short-term memory has been affected from all this stress. So I'm just going to call him Papa Bitchute. Because if I was to be walking in his shoes on a grander scale, I would know exactly what he's feeling because I've already done it. You see, that's the point. To which lots of other people have their stories, their experiences and whatnot. So through that process, we've all come together through the bubbles and through the fish, and we're all just kind of just, doing whatever we do. But yet, the big net's going to come and swoop us up. And, right? We're all faced with it. And then what? We're going to go run off to Brighteon.com. There's such a thing as called Rumble. Just a whole lot of other things that people utilize, right? I don't have the energy for that, people. I mean, I do have an account with Brighteon.com, but I'm satisfied with the 2 uploads that I do just to keep up with that in light of what I do, right? When it relates to videos, showing canning techniques or just general life, whatever. Like, I'm still struggling with the foundation, I'm letting go here. I want to let go there, but I don't want to make a mistake. And, I'm at the point where I want to ask this Kennedy pub, right, to do a fundraiser with me in terms of New Nations Unity under the license of, with extended hours of operations till 3 p.m. to bring in a 50-50 for a duration of a year over the weekends to generate some hard, cold cash for the local charities. They can choose their own charity. It doesn't matter to me, people. Well, I suppose it would if it was something that was unethical, but they're not going to choose an unethical charity. And they can keep it within their local district. That's the whole point of the foundation. The only problem is my government has worked very, very, very hard at scandalizing me, defaming me, and just the whole 9 yards. To which this dude, Papa Bitchute, is right smack in the middle of it. So, and he deals with the same bank as me. His account is on lockdown. My accounts are on lockdown. Basically because of government and their employees. Maybe it's not the exact same story, but it's definitely a pattern, right? From rich to poor. And now that we're all together with our bubbles, and swimming around and just whatever, trying to navigate within our own worlds and not lose our, like when you're a community activist, like, to any kind of degree where you're outspoken and you're willing to put yourself in the line of fire when it comes to the public and that kind of stuff, it's hard to put down that what is it called? It's not a mallet. A mallet is to hit something, right? To put down, it's more than a torch, right? It's something like this. I'll show you. If need be. If need be, right? One of these things. Right? I'm going to use this on my grapevine this year. I'm going to sharpen it up because this is nice. Any man would love to have this, trust me. With a little bit of restoration on it. And a woman, I suppose, because I'm a woman, so I'm not going to stereotype. I'm gonna sharpen it up, and I'm gonna sand it. I'm gonna oil the wood, and I'm gonna use it for my grapevines when they start growing out of control. Okay? This is what I mean by when you're a justice warrior or a community activist, and it's in your heart. It's got to be in your heart, right? What you hold is much more brighter than just a torch. Okay? Torches are nice, but they're not going to get you anywhere, right? So, and like I feel for him, people, because, he's being mistreated, right along with the rest of us that are affiliated with Bitchute. I pay a membership due because when my channel was deleted, I don't want to drag this out because we can talk about this when I do the turkeys, okay? I just want to say that I came into Bitchute on the right foot because I actually carry on with the UK flag. I don't know if you can see that, okay? Go into my videos, whenever I did a little event, I always brought that flag. I wanted to trademark it at the time when I was doing trademarks. But my agent my trademark agent said no, because it's going to cost more money, right? And because I asked her, well, you know, right? And she says, well, you would have to do the same kind of paperwork that you're doing and pay more fees, right? You just focus on what you have, and that was the United States and Canada. But I never left the UK behind. Okay, so when my channel did get taken down off of YouTube, then of course I migrated to Bitchute. I think I'd already been there, and I was, but it wasn't really a website that I used because, you know, I'm a YouTuber, quote unquote. And then everything became a Bitchute exclusive until magically one day my channel reappeared with no apologies, mind you. And if it was very shallow and insignificant and didn't mean anything. Right? And ever since then, I've been, you know, as usual, walking on eggshells, never know when the big hammer is going to come down and squish me, right? Abuse me, humiliate me, demoralize me, just all that loose harvesting shit, right? As they continue to suppress my channel, as they promote, thank you for the super sticker, thank you for the super sticker. Right? You know, and I'm like, well, you know, don't give up hope, Judy. You know, just hang in there. You're not the only one that's struggling with a bigger message and just whatever it is that drives people like us, right? You know, and now we're going to be scattered again, right? And what, we're all going to run off to Brighteon.com, Rumble, or wherever people go to have that process recreated over a period of time as we, you know, see our loved ones being picked off one by one. Like, when does the cycle change, people? Like, seriously, like, it's so pathetic, you know? And that's what I mean by I'm sitting here trying to, like, get a handle on my world, you know, trying to figure out what can I do before I go, right? And seriously, I do want to talk more about Papa Bitchute. I'm going to call this dude Papa Bitchute, okay? Just because, you know, he's in a Papa position that's, like, very serious. And, I mean, if they lock him out completely and his website shuts down, well, you know what? It's just a matter of time before mine shut down too. And Max Egan, I think it was Max, or maybe it was somebody else, was saying that, you know, they're shutting down one website at a time. And that's true, people. That's true, right? First they go for the most vulnerable, okay? Except for maybe those ones that, you know, do this with intent. You see, there's one thing talking and, you know, and just because we have fingers, we use them. It's another thing when you go out of your mind, out of your way to think, well, 1, 2, 3, oh, it becomes a spell, right? You know, right? Those are the little cues and signs that you have to watch for when you're dealing with individuals on the internet that purport themselves to be community activists, okay? Because really, if you're community activist, for sure, you're going to have the gift of the gab because it's something that you have to put out into the public. Whether you do it in a nice way and you lure them to your sexuality or whatever it is, in case of a lot of women, right? Women will use their sexual prowess to, well, men too, though, you know, the tall, handsome, right? He uses his sexual prowess, right? To attract supporters and followers and all that, right? So it needs to be discussed more, and I mean, I don't know what the solution would be. There's some kind of like fundraiser or something, but I'm already paying dues because when YouTube deleted my channel, I went to Bitchute, and you know, I wanted to tell Shimei's story, I wanted Sierra's story to get out there, and I just by the setup of Bitchute, how everything just runs down and you're only limited to a short, you know, space for playlists. Not that I have time to be doing playlists or whatever. I didn't want their stories to get lost with the procession of video after video after, because I pump out a lot of videos, right? So by becoming a member, I gained access to a larger playlist. But as soon as I got back my YouTube channel, you know, I haven't followed up on it. And even if I wouldn't have gotten my YouTube channel back, it still would have been very hard to follow up on it because I have a busy and full life, people. And what I represent is reality, and that it's not a freaking joke when you've got paramedics coming to the house looking for something for themselves first before they walk in to do their jobs, right? And they can't hide behind the government by saying, well, it's the government that mandates us to look at the environment before we deal with what we're there for. And they're coming in on the wrong foot, because if they weren't, they wouldn't be so adamant to look for fucking dirt. Sorry, boo-boo dirt, right? And then be habitual about it so they can build their case, so they can further speed up that process of imploding the family from the inside out. So if this Papa Bitchute loses his website, because that's basically what's at stake here, where do we go as fish swimming among our bubbles? Where are the bubbles going to go? Are they going to just, and then it's going to be a big die-off? Is that what the government's hoping for? Right? Or, are we going to all swim over to brighteon.com or Facebook or Rumble or wherever? I'm like, time is their weapon. Right? This is where time becomes the weapon. 22 years later, I'm waking up and smelling the coffee that I don't want to invest not even $1,400 into the American United States trademark. Because for what it's worth, after 22 years, it's not going to get me anywhere. I own something for 22 years. Treat it like a business to my ability within my restrictions, because welfare mom, you're not allowed to make a profit, but you can work for free and have a foundation, and you can spend your own money to promote yourself at the park if that's what you want to do, because you think that you're somehow special and that you can make a difference in the community, even though we know financially, just the whole 9 yards, it ain't gonna happen, because the handlers in the community, aka your local police departments, those kind of things, they don't want it to happen unless they're in control of it, which becomes that controlled opposition, which is always under the thumb of a fucking union. Okay? Which is employed by aka governments at the end of the day, in partnership with that organized religion. More than one. Because it's not just one ethnic group that is the problem here. It goes by region, territory to jurisdiction. So, I'm not a lawyer. I can't take it to court. I can only express it in a way where I can relate to it, because I've been there, done that. I've just done it at a lower level in terms of one of the more vulnerable in society. Doesn't make me less of a person, doesn't make my kids less of a person. It just means that that manufactured poverty mechanism has kept me there. And with the way global politics are right now, it's bringing in a form of desperation just to not end up dead sooner than later. Right? It's like a race to try and, survive. And we haven't even gotten to that point yet. We're just coming into it. If our crops continue to fail, if our animals are being culled because of some perceived virus, if, just a lot of ifs, right? So, yeah, we're going to talk more about it. Just understand that whatever I do, however I do it, why I do it, to which I can't even answer that to you right now, truthfully, other than I've been doing it so long, it's habitual. And I feel like maybe, you never know, I might put a crack in the glass. I might not be able to break it, but maybe one day I'll at least put a crack in that glass ceiling, and it will make it easier. Didn't an aquarium just burst? Where was that? I don't know, Brussels or someplace. It was in some country out there. They had like 1,500 tropical fish in a 1,000,000-gallon freaking aquarium in the center of a building of some sort. It was circular, and the thing cracked, and most of the fish died. 2 people got hurt. You know, that's what we're being set up for, people. Right? That crap. You know, and these are grown adults that are functional and have critical thinking skills and have a large skill set in specialty areas, right? You know, we're talking doctors, you know, just the whole 9 yards, right? Businessmen, people who write coding in terms of, you know, creating websites like Papa Bitchute, you know, people who are able to, you know, just different skill sets. And, you know, we're all in that aquarium being controlled by anybody, like not anybody, but being controlled by somebody that wants to take us out all at one time, as they will continue to take us out one by one. So, how we help this guy, I don't know. Maybe if we discuss it, we talk about it in open form, whether we just listen, who knows, we'll figure it out. Okay, so I'm now going to end this video, okay? And then we're going to come back with Turkey after I upload this, all right? And then we'll just go with the flow, right? I will probably talk about Papa Bitchute. Maybe a little bit, I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to spar on here. Okay, so here we go. We've got the 2 jars. Look at how beautiful that is. Now, remember when I told you before, a long time ago, when you're doing stuff like this, and if you're trying to retain your broth, okay? 2 tricks. 1, do you see? It's less than finger tight. Okay, not like that. You don't want it like that. Okay? You want it less than finger tight when you put it into the canner. It can come out the same way. Right? Unless, of course, there's grease or something. Alright? That helps to keep the liquid in, because as it's cooking and escaping, it doesn't have to be as forceful to get it out, to which the more force, the more expulsion. Right? So that's how you end up losing your liquids. Okay? So if you just make it where it's enough for what needs to get out, chances are you're going to retain a higher level of liquid. You can see. Okay? The other trick is, after you're done, you turn off your heat. Even though everything indicates that you can depressurize, including pulling off this thing, don't even pull off this thing, because as soon as you pull off this thing too soon, the pressure in your canner, even though you can open your canner, is going to... And through that process, because this is still spinning, okay, it's still pushing, you know, it's going to take a while for that to stop. But as soon as you bring it, you give it that hit of pressure drop, that's where you get the extra siphoning. And oftentimes, once it starts to siphon, it won't stop for a bit. It will just continue. Because it's a chain reaction. That's how they create energy, I suppose. Okay? So, secret, just don't open your lid too soon. Give it an extra half an hour, 45 minutes, even up to an hour, or all night if you want, before you open your pressure canner, and chances are you're not going to experience such a problem. Okay? Alright? Because it becomes, this one obviously released. Okay? You can see. Looking good though, isn't it? I think that was just the straight up beef. Those ones look like the meatballs. Oh yeah, look at that. That is so nice. Mickey, get away from me. Okay? And then we got 2 jars. Plus we've got the raw hamburger. Well, not raw, but just the ground beef with just whatever, just with broth. You can see how nice that is. Okay? And then we got two jars of broth that I just took out of the canner. Same principle. Don't take off your lid too much. The headspace on this was 1 inch. You can see it lost hardly any liquid. Now the only thing that I would say that I did wrong, because we're not perfect, but I'm not going to stress it, okay? Because the golden rule, no matter what, when it's a low acid food, is to always bring it to a boil, turn it down to a low boil, Put a lid on it so you don't lose through evaporation. And cook it for 10 minutes. And if there should be any botulism, it's gone. Okay? If it smells rancid, looks rancid, obviously it's spoiled. Boil it, chuck it out. Okay? You have to boil it first. You have to decontaminate it before you throw it out, just in the event of that there might be quote unquote botulism in it, right? But in a situation like this, in other words, what I'm saying is I did it for 20 minutes where I came across one recipe. It's too late, I already done it, where it said 25, but I'm not going to worry about it, people, because I've been doing it at 20 for a while, and I know the golden rule, and it wouldn't matter if I did it at 25 or technically 20, because if I don't boil it and cook it for 10 minutes before I consume it, there is that potential of botulism. Either or, it doesn't matter, okay? So if you make a mistake, well, from that point forward, just correct the mistake. So the next time I do broth, I'll do it for 25 minutes versus 20. Okay? And then, this is the stuff that I salvage instead of throwing it out. It's been in the fridge, so it's nice and cold. It's congealed. You can see that. These are going in the freezer because beef does not like to sit in a fridge for very long. It really doesn't. Okay? And that's obviously gelatin of some kind. And then we've got the fat. You can see. So how you want to cook with that? This would be great for flavoring with potatoes and, you know, those kind of things. And then you've got the grease for frying or whatever it is. If you're making a dough, sometimes you need a tablespoon or two of grease. If you're making like a potato dough or something like that. So there's your grease. See? Same thing. But you have to freeze this. And I would think it would last a long time in the freezer. So before you throw it in there, though, because of this, just to be on the safe side, I would say make sure your lid is very loose so that if for some reason it expands, you have that extra headspace. Look, the thing sealed itself. You have that extra headspace. There we go. See, there is a fair amount of headspace in there. So as this freezes, I don't know how it would react. But these jars are nice because they got the wide mouth, so it will just push up, right? And, but yeah, just to be on the safe side. Otherwise, you just crack your jar. Okay? So just like that. And then once it's frozen and you're good to go, then screw on your lid. Other than that, you know, for $78 and whatever the cost of the jars were with the lids, which I'd put at, oh, maybe, we'll just round it off at 10 bucks. Okay? So $88. So we'll round it off to 90 bucks. 90 bucks. Okay? How many meals? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 11 meals. For 90 bucks. But then that's quality beef, right? In terms of the proteins and animal fats. And I don't know what it would cost to go off and buy canned beef to get the same amount of, you know, calories or whatever. Either or, hold on,